Chapter 1406. Langlois County. Viscount Warren's Manor. As soon as Gu Qing-shan arrived, she was immediately invited into the study. Viscount Warren was a middle-aged man with a kind expression. If it weren't for the long robe he was wearing that gave off thin, twisting shadows, he would be no different from an unassuming passerby. As soon as he saw Gu Qing-shan, the Viscount immediately came forward and gave her a warm hug. "Time sure flies, in just a blink of an eye, our Langlois County will soon have another handsome baron," Viscount Warren commented. "Thank you, I will do my best," Gu Qing-shan replied. "All right, let's take a look at the corpses first. We'll talk as we go," Viscount Warren said. Following his orders, the corpses of the two wraiths were brought forward. Their faces were still humanoid, but their bloated bodies, limbs, long claws, as well as the carapace on their backs clearly indicated that they had been modified by something. "Seal the study, don't let anyone in or out," Viscount Warren ordered. "Understood." Everyone left, leaving only the Viscount and Gu Qing-shan. "Road, what do you think happened to these two Wraith Realm humans?" Viscount Warren asked. "Sir Viscount, I'm guessing that they were hit by something, or rather, infected," Gu Qing-shan said. "Is that so? If you don't mind, I'd like to collect their souls and observe the situation," Viscount Warren said. "Of course I don't mind, please," Gu Qing-shan replied. Viscount Warren walked in front of the two corpses, opened his palm, and muttered, "Dead souls, come forth." Several translucent gray shadows flew out from his palm and landed on the two corpses. The two corpses remained still. "Their souls are no longer here, seems like they've returned to the Wraith Realm, however." Saying so, Viscount Warren reached out a finger and hooked it. As if a string was being pulled, a faint glow slowly appeared between the two corpses. "Come, take a look at what they ran into in your territory." Viscount Warren quickly chanted an incantation. The faint glow scattered to reveal a scene. Two wraiths were crouching in the wilderness, looking down at the corpse of the giant wolf in front of them. "This is the monster that Road killed," an evil spirit said. "Strange, we have records of the wild beasts and rare creatures of the Saint Spirit world, even legendary monsters and demigod lifeforms, but we've never seen this type of wolf before. Could it be a new breed?" another wraith asked. The two of them did not notice that the void behind them silently opened up, and a rotten finger reached out and pressed on the back of their heads. The rotten finger retracted, and the void immediately closed up without a sound. After a moment of silence, the two evil spirits suddenly fell to the ground, twitching non-stop, and their bodies began to change drastically. "Ah!" They hissed involuntarily and quickly turned into monsters. Viscount Warren narrowed his eyes. Gu Qing-shan knew what happened next. The monster rushed into the small town of Ramon, eating everyone in sight. Gu Qing-shan brought Crow and the Viscount envoy to kill the two monsters on the spot. After reading it, Viscount Warren pondered. "Seems like someone really was behind this." Gu Qing-shan added fuel to the fire. "Sir, I'm guessing that finger doesn't belong to our world, ah? What proof do you have?" Viscount Warren asked. Gu Qing-shan replied, "I remember that the Wraith Realm has a lot of life-saving techniques, and they also know our Saint Spirit world very well, so they must have a corresponding defensive measure, unless it's something that they've never seen before, which would be able to silently mutate them," Viscount Warren replied. His expression became cautious as he walked up to the wall, picked up a small wooden mallet, and knocked on the clock on the wall. "Esteemed military minister, hand of the Empire's cavalry, His Excellency Count Sith, I wish to see you, immediately," Viscount Warren respectfully said. A few moments later. "Come, I was just about to look for you," a heavy voice resounded from the clock. Viscount Warren pointed his finger at the ground. The two monster corpses instantly disappeared. "I'm going to meet the Count first and inform him of this matter." "Road, you should go and have some fun at the ball," Viscount Warren said. "Yes, sir," Gu Qing-shan replied. "This should be a success." Knight Moore was a subordinate of Count Sith's 2nd Night Regiment, so he would definitely report this matter to his superiors. If Viscount Warren were to report this matter, he would definitely receive a lot of attention. As an unappointed baron, this was the most Gu Qingshan could do. Fortunately, the people of this world were all very powerful, so their judgment wouldn't be lacking, so they should be able to tell that this was a sign of the apocalypse. At that time, I would have accomplished the task that the world's spirit requested of me. Viscount Warren's figure disappeared into the void of space, but quickly returned. He took out a black bow from the void of space, then told Gu Qingshan, "Road, I heard that you lost your bow. Come and try this one, sir. This is too expensive. I can't accept it." Gu Qingshan declined. Viscount Warren casually replied, "I've seen your battle. You wouldn't be able to accept it if it's just archery alone, but you have the power of lightning, capable of separating the monster's soul from its body. At the same time, you also have the identity of a condemner, which will allow you to further improve your strength." Viscount Warren tossed the black bow to Gu Qingshan and continued, "As the agents of the gods in the mortal world, each of our strength is measured by our title," Roland said. "Road, you will definitely become a qualified baron. I am certain of this." After saying so, Viscount Warren disappeared. Gu Qingshan held the black bow in his hand and silently stood still. Strength, was it based on the title of nobility? Viscount Warren worshipped the god of slumber, a very powerful god. In front of me, Viscount Warren was able to easily search the soul. Even if he couldn't find the soul, he could still use the corpse to investigate the situation at the time. This is already so powerful that it wouldn't be an exaggeration to call it a divine skill. I wonder how powerful Count Sith is? At this point, Gu Qingshan looked down at the black bow in her hand. The bow felt cold to the touch, a bit like metal, and carried the scent of blood. A line of glowing text quickly appeared on the War God UI Frowny Face Soul artifact. Bow of Blooming Death. This bow has the ability, Flying Shadow of Flying Shadow. Constant ability, any arrow you fire will have its flight time reduced by 1 second. Gu Qingshan glanced over and couldn't help but exclaim, "What a good bow!" From the surface, this seems like an ability that increases the speed of fire, but it isn't. This is a constant time ability that will take effect at any time. When an enemy faces a flying arrow, they would easily misjudge it and lose the chance to evade. A divine artifact for sneak attacks. I didn't think Viscount Warren would be so generous as to give me such a bow. Gu Qingshan left the study. Crow was waiting on the hallway outside with a duck plushie in his arms. He excitedly pinched a flame into a rose, then controlled the rose to manifest into a thin flame sword. "Did you notice?" Crow asked. "What is it?" Gu Qingshan asked. "Not only is this world able to endure our full-powered combat, it can also help us better evolve. Because the laws of origin of this world are truly too powerful," Crow excitedly said. Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised. If that's the case... He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Spirit energy immediately flowed into him. The entire world was basically a super powerful spirit funnel formation. At this point, a butler came and lightly bowed to Gu Qingshan and Crow. "Gentlemen, the ball has begun, please follow me," the butler said. Gu Qingshan and Crow exchanged glances. After a brief moment of excitement, Crow lowered her head and muttered in a low voice, "A ball? I don't want to accept those men's invitations." The butler looked at her, then at Gu Qingshan, then silently gave Gu Qingshan a thumbs up. Gu Qingshan didn't know what kind of expression to respond to that. The duck plushie's voice suddenly resounded in Gu Qingshan and Crow's minds. Be content, no one would ever invite a duck to dance. Crow felt a bit of sympathy for him. Gu Qingshan also felt a bit reluctant. He held the duck plushie in his hand and whispered, "Should I find a shape-shifting technique in this world to turn you back into human form?" Before the duck plushie could say anything, a female voice suddenly resounded. "Ah, this plushie is so cute. Can I hold it for a bit?" Gu Qingshan looked up, only to see a young aristocratic girl standing next to him, staring at the duck plushie in his hand. I'm sorry. As Gu Qing-shan was about to refuse, the duck plushie's resolute voice resounded in her mind. Say yes. Chapter 1407. Soul points contributed to the laws of the world. Plus 300 plus 300 plus 300. As Gu Qing-shan stared at the lines of text that kept popping up on the War God UI, he wasn't in the mood to participate in some sort of banquet. I'm going to run out of money. I need to think of a way to earn more soul points. But the Viscount still hasn't returned, and the conferring ceremony hasn't begun, so I can't leave. Gu Qing-shan sighed helplessly, then found a seat in a corner and sat down. I wonder how things are progressing. If I was someone with actual authority like Viscount Warren, I might even be able to participate in the aftermath. While he was thinking, Crow walked over and sat down on the chair next to him. The first dance is about to begin. Tsk, there are so many beautiful young ladies here, as well as alluring noblewomen. How unfortunate that I, Crow sighed, leaned back on the chair, and crossed his legs without a care for his image. No need to pay attention to these people, or the dance. We need to think of a way to resolve this world's apocalypse. That way, all three of us will be able to turn back, Gu Qing-shan whispered. Crow glanced at him, then said, I think that duck plushie doesn't want to turn back. What do you mean? Gu Qing-shan asked. Crow narrowed his eyes. Gu Qing-shan followed Crow's gaze and looked towards the beautiful young ladies. The duck plushie was being swapped back and forth, being touched by one, then hugged by another. Gu Qing-shan hesitated, then sent her voice to the duck plushie. Omaki, let me save you? The duck plushie's excited voice abruptly came. No, 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 this is the highlight of my life. Please give me a bit of time to remember this moment. Well, Gu Qing-shan. Crow looked at Gu Qing-shan's expression and mocked. Are you wondering why those young ladies would like a plushie that's only worth 1 copper coin? That's a bit strange, Gu Qing-shan replied. Because it's yours, Crow replied. Gu Qing-shan was startled. Crow evaluated him, then commented. A handsome 15-year-old young man, confirmed to be a condemner that only appears once every few hundred years, daring enough to personally fight against the monster, receiving a private audience from the Viscount as soon as he arrived. Soon enough, you will be conferred the title of Baron. I'm sure many of the girls here are thinking of how to approach you. As soon as he finished speaking, the music started to play. The first dance is about to begin. Look at those girls, they're all pumped up as if they're about to step into the battlefield. Halfway through his sentence, Crow suddenly stopped. Hello, Road. Will you dance with me for the first dance? A noble lady approached Gu Qing-shan and asked charmingly. Gu Qing-shan quickly stood up and said apologetically, I'm sorry, I'd like to sit for a while. The girl giggled and said, You want to dance with the Viscount's daughter for the first dance, right? It's fine, I'll just have to bear with it and dance with you for the second dance. Saying so, without waiting for Gu Qing-shan to refuse again, she turned around and left. Gu Qing-shan's hand was raised halfway, but she couldn't pull her back, nor could she call for her to come back. That would draw everyone's attention. Am I supposed to refuse a girl's invitation to dance with me in front of everyone? Wouldn't that just be embarrassing her? Gu Qing-shan dejectedly lowered her hand. Crow clicked his tongue and praised. Look, that's how girls do things, retreating in order to advance. Not only does it show off their elegance and courtesy, it also makes it impossible for you to refuse to dance with her for the second dance. Gu Qing-shan was annoyed. I didn't come here to dance, Before he could finish his words, another noble lady walked over leisurely. I saw what happened just now, Road. I'll take the third dance. The girl silently winked at Gu Qing-shan, then lowered her voice and said, Road, I'm a high-ranked follower of the goddess of pleasure. She raised her slender finger and circled around the room, gesturing that no girl could compare to her. Then she left. Crow watched this with a troubled expression, muttering to himself, Pleasure? I really want to experience it. Unfortunately, I've turned into a girl. Suddenly, a butler walked up to Gu Qing-shan and quickly told her, Young Master Road, Sir Viscount has returned after the first dance is over. He will confer a title to you in front of everyone. Very well, thank you, Gu Qingshan replied. The butler nodded, then turned around and left. Gu Qingshan felt relieved. It seems Count Heath's matter has been resolved. With the foresight and strength of these VIPs, they should be able to warn everyone about the apocalypse. At this point, the first dance was about to begin. Gu Qingshan looked around, only to see that the Viscount's 2 daughters were looking at her. There was a certain something in their eyes. In any case, it was something that made Gu Qingshan anxious. Crow, what? Come dance, wah. Before she could finish, Gu Qingshan had already pulled her up and brought her onto the dance floor. The music became louder. Everyone began to dance. Are you afraid of women? While dancing, Crow curiously sent her voice. Gu Qingshan replied, That's not it, we don't have time for these unnecessary things. Crow appeared disapproving. The joy of life is made up of unnecessary things. Gu Qingshan glanced at the war god Yue. Her soul points value was still dropping by 300 every second. Right now, we need to focus on solving this world's problems, Gu Qingshan said. I'm reminding you, you're squeezing my chest, Crow said with a stern expression. Gu Qingshan looked down, then silently took a few steps back. Suddenly, a commotion could be heard from outside. A large group of people wearing cultivator robes and yiksha masks walked in. They exchanged a few words with the butler, then didn't participate in the banquet or dance, simply found a corner and silently stood there. Next to Gu Qingshan and Crow, an aristocratic young lady asked in a low voice, Why are these guys here? Her dance partner was a gentleman, who explained, These people are quite conscientious in their work. Sir Viscount would occasionally allow them to participate as a form of reward. Do you understand? The aristocratic young lady teased. I understand, just like my hunting dogs, when I'm in the mood, I'll also feed them some food. That's right, Gu Qingshan and Crow exchanged glances. Look, the people of this world have already gotten used to the existence of wraiths. Crow lowered his voice. Gu Qingshan looked around. The other aristocratic gentlemen and young ladies also casually glanced at these wraiths, then ignored them. The dance wasn't affected at all, still filled with a cheerful atmosphere. Gu Qingshan, on the other hand, became cautious. He could sense that the wraith's gazes were constantly inadvertently turning towards him. The song came to an end. As soon as Gu Qingshan left the dance floor, a wraith came up and clasped his fist. Esteemed young Master Road, we of the Wraith Realm have a gift for you. Please follow me. Gu Qingshan stood still and asked, Would you offer a gift to every nobleman who has been conferred a title? Behind him, another aristocrat chimed in. That's right, Road, for the past several thousand years, they have always respected our combatants. Go, accept the worship and offerings of these foreigners. Gu Qingshan stayed silent for a bit, then smiled. Then I'll have to respectfully accept. At this point, a lot of things happened one after another. New 81 Chinese website mobile. // 2 lines of glowing text appeared on the war god Yue. Frowny face. You've adeptly grasped the sacrificial sword dance and performed a normal dance. Please note, when the next dance begins, your dancing skills will be improved. At the same time, at the end of the banquet hall, the Sir Viscount abruptly appeared. His appearance caused everyone to cheer. He's back, I wonder how he's doing, Crow muttered. There shouldn't be any issues. A monster of that caliber would definitely draw the attention of combatants, Gu Qingshan replied. Road, come here, the Sir Viscount smiled and called out. He was wielding an intricate ceremonial sword in his hand. I ask everyone here to bear witness. I shall confer Road the title of Baron, the Sir Viscount loudly declared. Everyone began to clap. Gu Qingshan told the wraith. Seems like you'll have to wait a bit for me. Of course, the wraith stepped to the side. Gu Qingshan walked up to the Viscount. All of a sudden, he felt a burning sensation on his wrist. First published on New 81 Chinese website, the proof of the world had been awakened. Whispers resounded in his ears. Frowny face. You've displayed the origin of the plague apocalypse to the upper echelons of this world, successfully rousing their vigilance. The living beings of this world will prepare for the apocalypse ahead of time. Even so, the important events that happened in history will continue to happen as time approaches. That will be the beginning of the Wraith's destruction of this world. This event has concluded. Your mission has been perfectly completed. Within Gu Qingshan's inner sight, the small blue sword on his wrist burned and turned into a brand new icon. It was a skull. You've obtained our recognition. We shall now explain to you the origin of the world's destruction. The Wraith's betrayal began with a minor incident. That incident happened on this very day in history, just 1 hour from now. Historians call that incident the death of the young Baron. Chapter 1408. As Gu Qingshan walked among the crowd, everything around him slowly disappeared. The ballroom and banquet hall were both gone. A small sword that gave off a blue flame appeared in front of his eyes. Following that, the boundless sea of stars circled around him, whispering into his ears. Frowny face, the combatants have begun to notice the arrival of the plague apocalypse. Your actions are worthy of the deities opening a temporal path for you. Let us bring you to take a look. In the history of the Saint's spirit world, this is how the young Baron died. That was the beginning of the world's destruction by the Wraiths. The small blue sword scattered into a mass of light that enveloped Gu Qingshan. Langlois Prefecture. Viscount Warren's Manor. A handsome young man was dancing with the Viscount's daughter. Gu Qingshan hovered in the air, staring at him. Is this the real road from history? Gu Qingshan asked. Countless voices spoke at once. Indeed, he became the condemner, then met the Wraiths in the Viscount's manor. Gu Qingshan silently nodded. So it was the world spirit's intention for me to turn into this young man. Below. As the dance ended, the Wraiths approached the young man, offering him a present. Very well, seeing how sincere you are, I'll accept your present, the young man replied. The scene quickly changed. The Viscount appeared and conferred the young man the title of Baron. The banquet became even more lively. The young man immersed himself in it, getting to know many young ladies. At night, the young man returned to his room and opened the present the Wraiths offered. It was a few thin pieces of jade. The young man didn't care much at first, but the more he looked, the more serious he became, muttering to himself, "What profound archery, perfect for me! But where did those Wraiths get such powerful archery from?" The young man appeared cautious, took out a black leather book, and flipped it open. The Condemnation Codex. The jade pieces that recorded archery were placed on top of the black leather book. May all irredeemable sins be revealed. The young man chanted an incantation. Gu Qingshan noticed that the Real Road obtained a completely different condemnation card from her. Come to think of it, how could such a young man obtain a weapon like the Crimson Demon Divine Spear right off the bat? Gu Qingshan continued reading. Suddenly, a painful howl came from the black book, and the few jade pieces all shattered. The youth's expression changed. He picked up the black book and rushed out of the room. Help me inform Lord Viscount, I want to see him immediately. The youth shouted as he ran. A man who looked like a butler came up and whispered, Baron, please calm down. What happened? Why are you in such a hurry to see the Viscount? The young man quickly said, Those Wraiths were deceiving me. The bow technique they gave me was a sinister trap. Oh? What kind of trap is it? The butler asked. As long as I practice their archery, they will be able to take over my body, the young man shouted. Gu Qingshan raised an eyebrow. This was such a familiar scene. Could it be that all of this, as well as everything that happened in the Tomb of Myriad Beasts, was the Wraiths doing behind the scenes? The butler looked confused and murmured, Is that so? Strange, this technique has never been detected before. Another voice resounded. There are too few condemners, they don't believe in deities, and the Condemnation Codex is the most unique and powerful thing in existence, so there might be a card that could see through our technique from the darkness. A man wearing a Yiksha mask appeared. He was holding the young man's head in his hand. At some unknown point, the young man had already died. His headless body fell to the ground. Bright red blood continuously spread across the floor. A second later, an endless gust of wind blew past Gu Qingshan, pushing him back into the past. Under the illumination of the starlight, everything around him faded away. His vision blurred. Gu Qingshan found himself back at the ballroom. Among the lively crowd, Viscount Warren was standing at the other end of the ballroom, raising his ceremonial sword, and loudly declared, "Road, this is your moment." Gu Qingshan regained his composure, and quickly walked towards the Viscount. "So, that's what happened." Gu Qingshan walked up to the Viscount and knelt down on one knee. The Viscount lightly pressed the back of the ceremonial sword against his shoulder, touched it 3 times, then began to chant the conferring incantation. This conferring is to encourage the one who has contributed greatly to the world of Saint Spirit, Mr. Rode, the pioneer of his territory. I did not confer the title of Baron upon him in hopes that he would display his rank, but rather that he would remember the power of faith. Stand up, Rode. Gu Qingshan stood up. Faint divine runes appeared on his body. This was a conferring incantation that was recognized by both the deities and the world itself, which could only be carried out after the executors of the mortal world discussed and decided. Viscount Warren bestowed a baron armor to Gu Qingshan. This was the symbol of a baron, representing his status and authority. Gu Qingshan received the armor and bowed to Viscount Warren. The Viscount then gave a few words of encouragement. Amidst everyone's cheers and applause, the conferring ceremony was finally completed. Under everyone's watchful eyes, the wraiths once again appeared next to Gu Qingshan. "Baron, Sir Baron," the leader of the wraiths called out. "Go ahead," Gu Qingshan smiled faintly. "We sincerely offer you a treasure of our world, hoping that it will be able to accompany you and provide you with great support." The wraiths bowed and presented a treasure box. Everyone's gaze fell onto the treasure box with an expression of absolute certainty. This had been the case for several thousand years. People were used to it. Gu Qingshan looked at the treasure box, then at the wraiths in front of her. "What's inside?" Gu Qingshan asked. The wraiths raised the treasure box without saying a word. They weren't sure if this young man really wanted to open the treasure box in front of everyone, or if he was just pretending to ask. A second later, Gu Qingshan directly opened the treasure box. A few thin pieces of jade silently sat inside the treasure box, giving off a clear, crystalline glow. "Seems like it's a scripture or something similar. The Wraith realm had fought for us everywhere and obtained quite a few good things. Although the majority of them would have to be handed over, the things we gave to your excellencies should be the best," everyone whispered to each other. Seeing that he had actually opened the treasure box in front of everyone, the Wraith leader said, "Sir Baron, these are quite a few decent archery techniques." Even the divinities had praised these archery techniques to be powerful, saying that they should be passed down in the Saint Spirit world. Everyone's discussions became louder. Quite a few of them appeared envious. Gu Qingshan smiled and slowly said, "You're very kind, but I'm currently a condemner, so I've decided to no longer practice archery techniques and focus solely on studying the condemnation codex, so I won't accept these things." The wraiths were a bit surprised. It wasn't that he didn't want to accept things, but that these things were already useless to him. This was only natural. The wraith leader didn't know what to say, nor did he have any way to convince Gu Qingshan to accept the jade pieces. He held the treasure box and shook his head. "It seems we didn't prepare well enough, all of a sudden." Viscount Warren spoke up. "Rode, I advise you to accept these jade pieces and take a look at them when you have the time." Gu Qingshan's heart slowly sank, but he smiled and said, "Sir, I—" Viscount Warren cut him off and sincerely said, "Your father's forte was the archery. As his son, even if it's for the sake of remembering the glory he once achieved, you should still continue to study the archery." Gu Qingshan nodded. "You're right, sir." With that, he wiped his hand and put away the jade. Slip. Viscount Warren nodded, then silently sent his voice. "Rode, in all honesty, I'm prepared to recommend you to St. Torrent City to study, as well as serve under Count Sith. Would you be willing?" St. Torrance City was the duchy's royal capital, and Count Sith was the military minister with great authority, which low-level aristocrat wouldn't want to form a relationship with him. Gu Qingshan appeared excited and sent his voice. "Thank you, Sir Viscount, of course I'm willing." Viscount Warren patted his shoulder, then sent his voice again. "Count Sith is in need of an excellent archer, so I've decided to recommend you. But after you go, if you show your poor archery skills in front of the Count, you won't end up well. Even I won't have any face left, do you understand?" Gu Qingshan replied. "Don't worry, sir, I will earnestly learn the archery techniques that the wraiths offered me. I won't disappoint you." It was now that Viscount Warren appeared satisfied. Chapter 1409. Night. Gu Qingshan was standing on top of a hill outside the manor, taking out a black bough. On the grass next to him were a few pieces of jade. "They've already prepared them for me," Gu Qingshan muttered, drew an arrow and knocked it. His hand loosened. The arrow turned into a blurred image, disappeared into the darkness, and disappeared without a trace. Gu Qingshan silently stood there without moving for a long while. "Gongzi, haven't you already dealt with something like this?" Shanu asked worriedly. "Yeah, if worst comes to worst, I'll just lure them over and stab them to death," Luo Bingley replied. Gu Qingshan was still contemplating. The Earth Sword spoke up. "You don't understand, as long as Gu Qingshan has experienced this before, he wouldn't be willing to go through it again." "Why not?" Shanu asked. "Stabbing yourself is a very painful thing to do," the Earth God spoke in a low voice. "Ki." The sound of a heavy blow rang out. The Earth Sword was slammed into the ground by the Heaven Sword, then struck by the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword. After a while, the Chao Yin sword couldn't help but silently poke Gu Qingshan with its hilt. "It's fine, don't fight anymore," Gu Qingshan spoke up. It was only then that Luo Bingley and Shanu stopped. Gu Qingshan slowly spoke. "I was just thinking, if I have to stab myself every time something like this happens, that would be quite a failure. We don't know how many people in this world have been replaced with wraiths, and if the other side has the advantage in numbers, I'll be discovered as soon as I kill the one who's been replaced. And my end would still be worrisome." Hearing that, the four swords all fell silent. "That's right, this is a very big problem." Gu Qingshan held the pieces of jade in his hand and weighed them in his hand. "Not a single archery technique in here is clean," he chuckled. On the Heaven Sword, Luo Bingley's voice came. "Gu Qingshan, what do you plan to do?" "I'm still thinking." Gu Qingshan picked and chose a piece of jade and held it in her hand. Following his action, lines of glowing text appeared on the war god Yu. "Archery, blowing snow. Godly skill, inherited skill. Activation condition. You must sense the enemy's blood aura before you can activate this archery technique. Drifting snow. Your arrows have a range of 100,000 kilometers, and for every 10,000 kilometers the arrow travels, it will gain an additional attack ability, up to a maximum of 10 abilities. Ability 1, Shield Break. Damage to defensive equipment increases by 3 times. Ability 2, Torrential Rain. When it hits an enemy, it will immediately create 5 similar attacks. Ability 3, Random Movement. Randomly draws one of the 5 elements and attaches it to the arrow. Ability 4, Lethal. Your arrows are likely to hit the enemy's vital points. Ability 5, Featherblade. The longer the flight distance, the more powerful the attack, up to a maximum of 3 times. Ability 6, Blood Flow, unable to stop bleeding. Ability 7, Explosion. If the arrow is blocked, it will immediately explode, all abilities attached to it will be triggered. Ability 8, Blinding. Unable to be detected by sight, the enemy will only be able to detect this arrow through their senses. Ability 9, Poisonous Growth. Countless poisonous insects will grow inside the target's body and devour their flesh and blood. Ability 10, Snowfall. The arrow will take the same amount of time to travel 100,000 kilometers as it would take to travel 100 meters. The chances of hitting the target are also the same. To practice this inherited divine skill, it costs 1 million soul points. This was the most valuable of all the pieces of jade. Reading through the description, Gu Qingshan sighed. What a generous investment to take out such a divine skill. Is it because the condemner is so rare that he's so desperate to take over my body? This blowing snow, that carries 10 abilities, combined with the black bow's own zoom shadow, its destructive power is top-notch. The only downside is that the conditions to activate this divine skill are too strict. While Gu Qingshan was thinking, a line of glowing text appeared on the war god UI frowny face special attention. This divine skill is an inherited archery technique. In consideration of the previous incident with Ethereal, the UI can now convert blowing snow into knowledge. A knowledge is absolutely safe and clean. Would you like to convert it? No, there is no need to convert it, Gu Qingshan replied. He directly spent 1 million soul points to learn this archery divine skill. A warm flow flowed from the jade piece into his arm and gathered in his thought sea, allowing Gu Qingshan to instantly grasp this inherited divine skill. The swords all sensed the change in his state. Gongzi, should I and the earth sword act again? Shanu asked. No, there's no rush, Gu Qingshan muttered. Someone's coming. All the swords instantly went into his thought sea and hid themselves. 1 breath. 2 breath. A figure appeared in the darkness of the night. Viscount Warren. Our young baron, why are you alone in such a secluded place? Did one of the aristocratic young ladies hurt your heart? He teased, but his gaze was a bit cold. That's not it, Gu Qingshan curtly replied, drew an arrow from his back, and nocked it. A unique power fluctuation came from the black bow. Viscount Warren's gaze became focused and asked, You've already started learning that archery technique? With a resounding crack, the arrow disappeared without a trace as soon as it left the bowstring. I'm currently practicing it. What a shocking technique. I didn't think the wraiths would have such a thing, Gu Qingshan praised. The cold air around Viscount Warren's body was blown away by the wind. This is blowing snow. I know this archery technique. The wraiths had offered this divine skill to quite a few aristocrats, but no one managed to comprehend it. You're the first. While saying so, he observed Gu Qingshan. So that's why. This young man left in the middle of the night in order to find a place to practice his secret skill. From the power fluctuation coming from the young man's body, as well as the arrow that flew away, it was the truth. He was very perceptive and had already begun to comprehend it. Viscount Warren's expression calmed down and handed a document to Gu Qingshan. Being able to learn such a powerful archery technique, I have high hopes for you. This is the document to travel to St. Torrance. Report directly to Count Sith. Gu Qingshan received the document with a hesitant expression. What is it? Viscount Warren asked. Sir, I have a favor to ask, Gu Qingshan said. Speak, the Viscount said. Earlier, 2 wraiths were infected by that unknown power and turned into monsters, eating people in my town. Gu Qingshan dragged out his voice and looked at the Viscount. That's right, the Viscount gestured for him to continue. Gu Qingshan then continued. Can you give me one of the monster corpses? I'll hang it on the town's gate when I return, letting everyone know that the monsters have been completely killed and that there's nothing to be afraid of. Viscount Warren went silent. Those 2 unlucky fellows, even their souls had been completely corrupted. Not even a resurrection technique could save them. Although their corpses were already crippled, they were still my comrades. However, this condemner would soon become his comrade. There's no harm in agreeing to his request right now, just in case something else happens. I can give it to you for a few days, but when you return to St. Torrance, bring the corpses with you and hand them over to Count Sith, understood? Viscount Warren said. Yes, no problem, Gu Qingshan happily replied. Viscount Warren tapped the void of space with his hand. A terrifying monster corpse appeared on the ground. Gu Qingshan put the corpse away and bowed to the Viscount. Sir, I'll return to the town first, practice my archery technique for a few days, then head to St. Torrance, Viscount Warren replied. Very well, when you're at St. Torrance, come and see me again. As you wish. Gu Qingshan's figure leapt forward and disappeared into the darkness. Viscount Warren remained silent for a while, muttering to himself, "A condemner, how rare," at another location. Gu Qingshan and Crow returned to Ramon Village. "We're heading to the capital city in a few days?" Crow asked. "That's right, there's nothing much to do for the next 2 days, so it's a good time to rest up," Gu Qingshan replied. "Come on, let's go have a drink." Crow pointed at a bar on the side of the street. "You go first, I have something I need to do, I'll come find you later." "That's fine." Crow excitedly kicked open the door of the bar, walked in, and loudly called out, "Give this lady some good liquor." The door closed. Her voice couldn't be heard anymore. Gu Qingshan shook her head and disappeared. In the wilderness outside of the town, he chose a place with no wind and used a formation plate to arrange 7 to 8 large-scale concealment formations. The monster's corpse was placed on the ground. "Gongzi, what do you intend to do?" Shanu asked. Gu Qingshan looked at the monster's corpse and replied, "When we were killing that giant wolf outside the town, a wraith appeared and came to check the situation." "That's right, what about it?" "Ramon Village is surrounded by barren wilderness, there's nothing worth the wraith's attention, the only valuable target is the young road who's about to be knighted, which means..." Gu Qingshan's gaze became solemn. "They've been preparing to swap souls from the very beginning." Chapter 14:10. 6 long legs were scattered about. Their bodies were covered in a pitch-black carapace with rotting flesh inside. Their mouths were filled with pus, forming the shape of a cross, their teeth were twisted and sharper. These were the wraiths that were infected by the plague. At this point, Gu Qingshan crouched down in front of the corpse and carefully checked it again. Very good, the corpse was handled very professionally and cleanly, everything that came with it had been taken away, even some of the hidden runes on the body were gone. Looking at the corpse, Gu Qingshan appeared a bit pleased. "Gongzi, what are the hidden runes you mentioned?" Shanu curiously asked. "A protective technique." Gu Qingshan pointed at a certain part of the monster's body for Shanu to see. Only to see that a layer of that part had been shaved off, revealing the muscles inside. "I've already seen it during the battle, there used to be some runes here, most likely the Wraith's life talismans or something similar, but now they're gone," Gu Qingshan said. "They'd rather cut off their skin than let others see the runes. Why is that?" Luo Bingli asked. "To hide the Wraith's true strength," Gu Qingshan replied. He stood up and muttered, "No protective life talismans, no weapons, no armor, nothing at all. Such a clean corpse, no wonder they're willing to give it to me." Saying so, he drew the heaven sword. "You want to use chaotic flow?" Luo Bingli's voice came from the heaven sword. "Yes, I'm sorry, but you might need to sleep for the next few days," Gu Qingshan replied. "Before I sleep, I want to know what exactly you're planning," Luo Bingli asked with interest. Gu Qingshan cleared her throat and spoke with a serious expression. "The Wraiths are extremely cautious, I've already known this back in Void City, they almost never allow anyone to enter their world. In this world where time has been reversed, they're just as cautious, they only gave the corpse to me after thoroughly cleaning it up. And that's only because I've already learned their archery skills and will soon become one of their own. So this is our only chance." "What opportunity?" Luo Bingli asked. "I'm guessing that they have a special team in charge of the transfer of my soul, and this corpse is the person in charge of observing me. My basis is that Ramon Town is such a barren place. Other than a young man who is about to become a baron, there is no other reason for them to come here. Also, when I killed the giant wolf, a demon immediately appeared, which means that he was originally near me. Then is it possible that the person who wants to replace me is also in this operation team?" "Why do you think that person is in the group?" Luo Bingli asked. Because he has to understand everything about road and no roads situation at all times. This way, after taking over Road's body, he won't be noticed by those who were familiar with Road before, Gu Qingshan said. Luo Bingley thought for a bit and couldn't help but ask, "That is indeed the case, so you're ready to act?" Gu Qingshan's expression was a bit cold as she muttered, "I'm used to doing things based on intelligence, but the wraiths are extremely cautious and don't reveal anything. I might be able to kill them, but it's very difficult to obtain intelligence from them, so I can only patiently wait for a chance to look for their weakness." "You waited for this chance?" Luo Bingley asked. Gu Qingshan nodded. "It's a rare chance." Luo Bingley didn't say anything else. The Heaven's Sword let out a clear chime. This meant that she was ready to activate chaotic flow. Gu Qingshan immediately acted. He took out the Chao Yin sword, Earth sword, and 6 Paths Great Mountain sword and stabbed them into the plague monster's corpse, firmly pinning it to the ground. Then he took out a formation plate and arranged several restraining formations at once. After everything was ready, he raised the Heaven Sword. Chaotic Flow activated. Chaotic Flow. When the Heaven Sword strikes an entity, you will be able to make that entity skip its current state until the moment of your choosing. As the sword sliced through the air, the monster's gigantic body quickly shrank until it turned into a man. The man slowly regained consciousness, opened his eyes, but only saw dirt. All of his powers were restrained by several dozen formations, unable to be used or used to check his surroundings. He abruptly screamed in pain, "Arg!" He was facing the ground, pinned in place by the 3 swords, unable to move at all while enduring intense pain. At this point, Gu Qingshan had already taken out a black leather book, held the book in one hand while pressing the man's head with the other, and quickly chanted, "The life and death of all things is but an instant. With my power of condemnation, your suffering shall be alleviated." Divine word, cleanse, boom. A gloomy glow manifested from the man's body before disappearing in an instant. Gu Qingshan's eyebrows twitched and shouted, "Shanu, a lawbreaker." "Understood." As Shanu's voice resounded, the entire 6 Paths Great Mountain sword gave off a faint sharp sword phantom. Crack, crack, crack. Layers of dim light appeared one after another, then quickly dimmed again. A total of 7 to 8 rays of light were destroyed. Gu Qingshan put the black leather book away, wielded the slumbering Heaven Sword, and stabbed the man's heart again and again. The man's eyes opened wide. "Who exactly are you?" He coughed up blood, his expression full of confusion. "You were the one who revived me. Why did you want to kill me right away? Who exactly are you? Why won't you even let me see you?" Sensing the other party's life force fading away, Gu Qingshan reached her hand out and placed it on top of the man's head. Soul Reading, activate. Various scenes appeared one after another, filling Gu Qingshan's thoughts. This Wraith Realm male cultivator's memories were all taken in by Gu Qingshan. 1 breath, 2 breath, 3 breath. The male cultivator fell unconscious, slowly falling into a state of near death. Even after soul reading, Gu Qingshan still didn't stop and shouted in a low voice, "Shanu Chao Yin, protect my body." 2 swords flew out from the corpse, one in front and one behind to protect him. Gu Qingshan sat down cross-legged and formed a hand seal with both hands. Secret Art. A sealed body Yin shift. Secret Art. A soul comes soul goes. These 2 techniques must be activated at the same time, no mistakes allowed. Both of Gu Qingshan's hands formed the seals at the same time, stopping right in front of the final hand seal. His breathing stopped, his body temperature dropped, his spirit energy retracted into his dantian, his heartbeat stopped. At the same time, he couldn't help but open his eyes. Gu Qingshan's soul body slowly flew up from his body and hovered in the air. "Kill," he spat out a single word. With a swing of the earth sword, the wraith male cultivator's body was erased. All that was left was a soul shadow. While this soul shadow was still confused, Gu Qingshan had already grabbed the earth sword and slashed again with all her strength. The soul shadow was instantly destroyed. Gu Qingshan was currently in his soul form, so he immediately noticed the remaining speck of light slowly disappearing into the void of space. The final form of a soul is the speck of light, which will return to primal chaos. Gu Qingshan clenched his fist and shouted, "Come!" A line of glowing text quickly appeared on the war god Ui frowny face. As you've received the blessings of the worlds of the past, as well as contributed the power of over 1 trillion souls to primal chaos. Primal chaos has appeared before you. Boundless illusory storms filled the surroundings. A golden waterfall descended from above and manifested around Gu Qingshan's body. Primal chaos. Gu Qingshan didn't pay any attention to this majestic sight and instead narrowed his eyes to carefully search. All of a sudden, Gu Qingshan once again saw the speck of light from before. He gripped the earth sword tightly and quickly said, "Earth sword, don't hold back." "Got it," the earth sword replied. A cold gleam flashed. Earth's choice. As the speck of light was struck, it scattered into specks of dust and thoroughly melted into primal chaos. Earth's choice was said to be able to eliminate all entities, but when a person dies, they turn into a soul, and when their soul is destroyed, they turn into specks of light. These were the 3 layers of the laws of primal chaos, and even the earth sword couldn't directly pierce through these 3 layers of laws to completely erase a person. That was why Gu Qingshan turned into a soul and killed layer after layer, killing that person 3 times in a row before finally erasing all traces of his existence. After doing all that, Gu Qingshan finally calmed down. He descended and returned to his body. He opened his eyes. Everything was normal. "Gongzi, did you succeed?" Shanu asked in concern. This person was already corrupted by the plague apocalypse, but now that I've revived him and killed him 3 times, all traces of him have been erased, so there shouldn't be any issues, Gu Qingshan replied. He looked up at the sky. It was now deep into the night, the darkest time of the day. There was still some time before dawn. "Let's go," Gu Qingshan said. "Where to?" Shanu asked. "When I used soul reading just now, I've already found their base, so we're going to pay them a visit and meet the wraith that's about to take over my body," Gu Qingshan casually said. Several swords flew into his thoughts. Gu Qingshan's figure slowly became shorter and turned into an orange cat. The orange cat recognized the direction and quickly headed into the wilderness. Looking down from the sky, its figure was like a ghostly shadow, quickly disappearing into the boundless night. Chapter 14:11. A Forest. The orange cat was sitting on top of a large tree, looking at a faraway lake. This place was very far from Ramon village, located in the middle of a mountain range at the edge of the wilderness. Past this mountain range was another duchy. The orange cat pulled his gaze back, closed his eyes, and silently waited. According to that wraith's memories, this place was too secluded, only a simple temporary base. Furthermore, the people of this world believed in the wraiths, so the wraiths didn't set up a strict defense here. What they were most confident in was their individual ability to keep secret. Even the one who was infected by the plague, as soon as he was resurrected, numerous defensive techniques appeared on his body. About half an hour later, the orange cat abruptly opened his eyes and looked at the surface of the lake. A wraith descended from the sky, landed on the surface of the lake, and disappeared without a trace. Seeing that, the orange cat turned around and ran, quickly leaving this forest around the lake. He stopped at the other end of the forest, took out the jade piece from before, and wiped it with his paw. Immediately, the archery inheritance recorded on the jade piece disappeared. "What are you doing?" The earth sword sent its voice. "I don't have any usable jade tags right now, so I'm going to use their jade pieces to modify something." Gu Qingshan also sent her voice. The orange cat tossed the jade piece into the air, then used both paws to form hand seals at it. The earth sword swung once in the air, slicing a snake that was glaring at him on a tree in half, then said, I thought you would directly kill all of those wraiths. The 6 paths great mountain sword flew out. Shanu's voice followed. The number of wraiths here is limited, so what if I killed them all? That would only alert them and put Gongzi in an even more dangerous situation. The Earth Sword was stumped and asked. Then, what do you think he's doing? Shanu replied. I'm guessing that Gongzi is trying to find a way to infiltrate the race. This way, he wouldn't expose himself and would also be able to obtain a lot of information. Am I right, Gongzi? The 2 swords looked at Gu Qingshan at the same time. At this point, Gu Qingshan had finished modifying the jade piece, so she couldn't help but chuckle. Shanu, since when did you start thinking about such things? Shanu replied, because I have to pretend to be Gongzi sometimes. I've been studying your expressions, movements, words, and thoughts. Gu Qingshan praised. Not bad, you can prepare in advance for unexpected situations. I am very relieved. Being praised, Shanu's tone became a bit more cheerful. Then what exactly is Gongzi planning to do? The orange cat opened his paw to show her the jade piece, then sent his voice. The wraiths have the advantage in numbers and are powerful, but I still have to deal with the plague apocalypse and the extinct monsters, so I don't have the time to slowly fight against them. Then, this is? Shanu wasn't sure and asked. The orange cat raised the jade piece with one paw, formed a hand seal, and sent his voice. Generally speaking, everyone's focus is different. It's hard to force someone to care about something they're not interested in, unless… Shanu fell silent. She had no idea what Gu Qingshan was talking about, so she could only continue listening. Gu Qingshan circulated her spirit energy and infused it into the hand seal. Unless there's something that's related to everyone's life and death, only then would it cause a huge commotion, causing the entire world to erupt with unprecedented power of change. This world is about to fall into chaos. If I don't scrape the bones to heal myself, there's no need to even think about it. I'll take advantage of the fact that the plague and monsters haven't fully descended to throw it into chaos. Spell completion. Recording technique. This was a very simple technique in the cultivation world, capable of recording everything that happened around it. The orange cat held the jade piece in his mouth and once again headed towards the lake. He arrived at the edge of the lake and waited for a while. With the patrolling rules he obtained from soul reading, as well as the wraith he saw earlier, Gu Qingshan had already calculated the time. About 2 breaths worth of time later, another wraith descended from above, about to enter the base. Unbeknownst to this wraith, as soon as he opened the lock seals around the lake, a cat had appeared behind him. This cat had entered the lake together with him. The lake water was cold and damp, but there was a narrow stone path that led down from the surface of the lake all the way to the depths of the lake. The orange cat followed behind the wraith, silently flying downwards, and soon reached the end of the path. This place was about half the size of a soccer field, with 2 wraiths silently hovering in the air. These 2 evil spirits were tightly wrapped in talismans, and their bodies were emitting strange fluctuations. Below them, 7 to 8 wraiths were anxiously busying themselves. They were occasionally using hand seals to control the talismans while sensing the changes within. The orange cat held the jade piece in his mouth, slowly walked forward, jumped onto a long table, and silently observed. Suddenly, one of the wraiths asked, "Sir, how do you feel?" One of the wraiths hovering in the air with talismans all over his body replied, "I've received the fixed guiding fluctuations of the inheritance, Snowdrift. The soul frequency and location of Barren Road of Langlois County has been confirmed. Once the inheritance reaches 75% completion, I will initiate the first soul exchange," one of the wraiths curiously asked. "Sir, he's only a baron, why would you need to use the precious Snowdrift and personally take over his body?" The wraith with talismans all over his body replied, "You've only just arrived, so you don't know. This baron is a rare condemner. He doesn't believe in the deities and only believes in the condemnation codex. We still haven't obtained this profession, so the higher-ups are paying a lot of attention to us, so that's why. The wraith was surprised and wanted to say something else, but was cut off. In the air, another wraith with talismans all over his body loudly declared, "Attention all, Viscount Fides, 100 slashes. Technique has been fully cultivated, please prepare yourselves for a complete soul exchange." While he was speaking, the talismans all over his body began to give off fierce auras. Hearing that, the wraiths all gathered around this sir and formed their hand seals at the same time. Instantly, chains that gave off a black glow flew out from their hand seals and tightly bound the wraith with talismans all over his body. "Sir, the life-steal body swap technique is ready," one of the wraiths reported. The wraith in the air solemnly declared, "Everyone, I'll be leaving now. From today onwards, I am Viscount Fides. You will have to take care of the following matters. After I take over his body, I will go find Viscount Warren. Don't contact me for now." "Yes, sir." "Very well, let's begin." The wraith's hand seals changed again and again, shouting at the same time, "Farewell, sir." In a split second, the wraith with talismans all over his body fell from the sky and heavily crashed to the ground. 1 breath. 2 breath. He suddenly staggered to stand up, tearing off the talismans on his body while doubtfully asking, "Where am I?" The wraiths all formed their hand seals at the same time. 7 to 8 black chains immediately became taut, restraining this man to the point where he couldn't move at all. Law seal. Power seal. Divine seal. Object seal. Contract seal. It's under control. The wraiths shouted one after another. The man struggled in a frenzy, shouting, "Damn it, you lowly wraiths, I am Viscount Fides! How dare you disrespect me?" The wraiths ignored him. They exchanged glances. Someone spoke up. "The life-steal body swap technique has been successfully completed without any mistakes. We can now proceed to the next step." One of the wraiths stepped forward and said, "Then I'll do it." He drew his blade and swung. "Don't." The man on the ground didn't even have time to beg before he was sliced in half, losing all signs of life on the spot. "All right, the closest target left is that barren road. He won't be able to meet the requirement to be replaced in a short period of time. Everyone rest up." "Got it." The orange cat held the jade piece in his mouth, coldly watching everything that happened in front of him. After everyone had left, leaving only a single wraith on guard duty, he silently returned the way he came and returned to the entrance of the base in the middle of the lake. As the orange cat turned back into Gu Qingshan, the ghostly shadow of night thaumaturgy he was using immediately disappeared. Gu Qingshan raised the jade piece so that it could reflect their surroundings. Finally, he raised the jade piece in front of himself and solemnly said, "Everyone, I am Rode from the small village of Ramon in Langlois Prefecture of the Fran Duchy, a baron. Recently, I received a gift from the wraiths during the enfeoffment ceremony. Several archery inheritances. Wraiths always give gifts to aristocrats. Could it really be because they're humble? I was very doubtful, so I tried to investigate. Just now, I've shown everyone the truth. Following this, I'll collect a specimen and use it as proof. The battle will be a bit bloody, so don't watch." He put the jade piece away, drew the earth sword and 6 paths great mountain sword, and held them in his hands. "Earth sword, Now it's time to kill." Deep inside the base, the wraiths had sensed the abnormal fluctuations here, and were quickly approaching. Chapter 14:12. Standing at the top of the stairs, Gu Qingshan pointed her sword downwards. In the darkness, the air around them condensed, then abruptly parted like a violent storm. A surging and vast sword light suddenly appeared. "Go," Gu Qingshan casually said. Boom! The sword phantom manifested from the earth sword. Like a waterfall of light that illuminated the world, it descended. Everything in its path was destroyed. Secret art, a great torrent. The first wraith appeared at the end of their vision, took out a large shield made of ghastly fangs and tried to block it, only to be erased by the surging sword phantom. The second wraith quickly formed a hand seal, turned into a purple-green wraith, and uttered a deafening roar. Then it was swallowed by the sword phantom. The roar disappeared without a trace. The third and fourth wraith wielded burning talismans at the same time, manifesting a burning mirror of light to stop the sword phantom. Boom! The mirror shattered, and they died. The fifth, sixth, and seventh wraith appeared at the same time, standing back to back as they shouted in unison. Heaven and earth become wraith, only I become a demon. The sword phantom arrived. Within the burning torrent, the three wraiths' bodies fused together to form a three-headed, six-armed monster, formed a hand seal with 6 hands, chanted an incantation with 3 mouths, and shouted. True demon thought body. Countless wraith shadows manifested from its body, each wielding a weapon of various shapes and sizes, continuously attacking the sword phantom. The sword phantom slowly faded. The three-headed, six-armed monster stood in the middle of the road, completely unharmed. But it wasn't in a hurry to attack. Instead, it took up a stance, wielding a blade, a hammer, and a staff, wielding them in each of its 6 hands, then looked at Gu Qingshan. So it was you, Baron Road. Why did you suddenly attack us? It asked with a confused expression. Gu Qingshan smiled warmly. I came to see you. He threw a punch without turning his head. As soon as he did, a wraith appeared behind him, wielding a pair of spikes as if about to attack. Do it! The three-headed, six-armed monster shouted. The wraith froze in place, stunned like it didn't sense anything. The sword phantom slashed through. A head was plucked off. Gu Qingshan held the head with one hand and pointed the sword forward with the other. What's the point of letting others do it? Why don't you do it yourself? The three-headed, six-armed monster's expression turned gloomy as it said in a low voice, Baron Road, you're the one who asked for it. It clasped its 6 hands together and formed a seal. A rustling sound rose from his body, and was about to take shape out of thin air. Pooh! There was a soft sound. The evil and gigantic silhouette suddenly dispersed and disappeared without a trace. The monster spat out mouthfuls of blood. It froze in place and slowly lowered its head. One sword pierced through its heart, and the other pierced through its back. Swallow returns. The 2 swords intersected, directly ending the monster's life. An orange cat raised an autumn water blue sword and coldly said, Meow. The cold light of the sword flashed. The monster was cut in half, its body scattered into countless tiny sword phantoms, turning into a mist of blood that was blown away by the intense wind. The orange cat put his sword away, turned back into a woman, disappeared into the void of space, then turned back into a sword and returned to Gu Qingshan's hand. It was the 6 Paths Great Mountain sword that Gu Qingshan let go of earlier. What a waste of so many powerful techniques. Gu Qingshan shook her head. They don't use their brains to kill, they're still a bit lacking compared to Gongzi, Shanu followed up. Why are you praising him? The earth sword muttered in a low voice. None of your business, Shanu coldly replied. Gu Qingshan's figure flickered and disappeared. He appeared at the end of this base. In the middle of the empty base, there was still a single wraith covered in talismans, hovering in the air. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then had Shanu stand on one side while he took out his black bow and shot at the wraith. Road. Baron Road. You've killed a member of our wraith realm for no reason. We will definitely report this to the Duchy's Grand Duke and demand justice. Otherwise, we won't let this matter rest. The wraith shouted in a threatening manner. Gu Qingshan's hands didn't stop. The arrows kept striking the talismans and piercing into them. Blood flowed everywhere. You wanted to take my body, so killing you is perfectly justified. No one can say anything about it, Gu Qingshan replied. The wraith froze, then suddenly became silent. So you already knew. A streak of flame flew out from his body and disappeared in the blink of an eye. At the same time, 7 to 8 talismans on the wraith's body began to burn. The smoke they gave off manifested into sharp spears out of thin air. I'm not like those pieces of trash, the wraith casually said. The spears were as numerous as a forest, reaching Gu Qingshan in almost the blink of an eye, making it impossible for her to dodge. Gu Qingshan barely managed to dodge here and there, but was still pierced a few times, causing her to spit up blood. The wraith clicked his tongue inside. Road, you're truly a talented person, to be able to find this place by yourself. Not only did you manage to hide from all of our defensive formations, you even found out about our plan. But how regretful, after 5 breaths worth of time, a large number of experts will arrive here, and you'll die 5 breaths worth of time? Gu Qingshan abruptly shouted. Cut! What? What did you say? The wraith was confused. Gu Qingshan ignored him. Hearing him, Shanu put the jade piece in her hand away. Gu Qingshan's figure moved like a phantom, dodging and moving between the overlapping spear images. Compared to his previous sorry state, he seemed to have more than enough strength now. Using his bow to knock away one of the spear images, he asked, Shanu, did you record that? Shanna glanced at the jade piece in her hand, nodded, and loudly replied, I recorded everything, it's just that Gongzi spat out a bit too much blood just now, it's a waste of blood. It's fine, it's as realistic as possible, Gu Qingshan also loudly replied. The 5th breath's worth of time. The glow of formations appeared on the ground. Someone was teleporting here. It seems the reinforcements that the wraith mentioned are about to arrive. Gu Qingshan's hand moved slightly. The black bow abruptly disappeared, replaced by a dark green bow that gave off an indescribable pressure. Dreamscape Divine Armament, Bow of Fallen Souls. Goodbye. The arrow was fired from the bow, but not towards the wraith in the air, but towards the ground. Zzzzz. Being struck by the arrow, the ground began to emit the sound of corrosion, quickly sinking and sinking. This was the power of the Bow of Fallen Souls, capable of corroding anything. The teleportation was cut off. Gu Qingshan glanced at the wraith and silently took a step back. Layers of white fog appeared out of nowhere, enveloped him, and vanished. Fog Realm Descent. Gu Qingshan directly left this wraith base. He reappeared in the wilderness outside of Ramon village. Shanna gave the jade piece to Gu Qingshan and asked, Gongzi, what do we do now? Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then spoke in a troubled tone. I don't have enough jade tags. All of a sudden, he felt a burning sensation on his wrist. The blue skull pattern began to burn, abruptly giving off the voice of the world spirit. Your feet. Gu Qingshan crouched down and pushed the dirt under his feet aside. A piece of pure white jade that gave off a faint glow appeared in front of his eyes. Gu Qingshan released his inner sight to check his surroundings. Everything within a radius of several dozen miles was made of high-quality, white jade. Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised, then chuckled. I almost forgot, the world is on my side. He waved his hands in the air, quickly cutting out several pieces of jade from the ground, processed them into jade tags, then used a hand seal to copy all the images on the jade tags into them. After making a total of 300 identical jade tags, Gu Qingshan was satisfied and stopped. Once these jade tags are spread throughout this world, a chaos will arrive, the Earth Sword said. Gu Qingshan sighed and replied, The wraiths have been working hard in this world for so many years, little tricks are useless. Only by bringing chaos ahead of time would this world have a chance to win against the wraiths, plague, and monsters. But how do we send these jade tags out? Shanu asked. It was a bit troublesome at first, but now that the wraiths have helped me, as well as the world spirit, Gu Qingshan tied a jade tag onto an arrow and pulled the bow back into a full crescent shape. His fingers loosened. The bowstring let out a thunderous noise as the arrow shot up into the sky, disappearing without a trace. This is drifting snow, Shanu muttered. That's right, this is a divine skill, able to reach a destination in no time at all, even faster than when I ordered takeout at the Federation. Gu Qingshan confirmed her guess. I've also spent quite a bit of time in the cultivation-type world, but this is the first time I've seen someone using a divine skill to send jade tags, the Earth Sword muttered. But Gongzi, do you have a goal? Where will the jade tags be sent to? Shanu asked further. I don't have a goal, but since it's been reborn, it would definitely remember a lot of people and things, so it will have a goal. The Earth Sword and Shanu both asked in unison. That's right, Gu Qing Shan tied another jade tag onto the arrow. A gust of wind suddenly appeared in the wilderness. The wind manifested from nowhere, circling around the flying arrow, as if trying to escort the jade tags to a certain place in the world. The wind will guide the arrow, Gu Qing Shan said. The world spirit will decide where these jade tags will be sent to. Right now, it's our ally. Chapter 14:13. An arrow flew through the mountains and the sea, continuing to fly through the sky. Without knowing it, it had already flown for over 100,000 miles before it ran out of energy and fell from the sky. The wind blew at the arrow, forming an invisible airflow path that carried the arrow to a certain place. This was another continent. Under the clear blue sky, the wind blew through the endless fields. The arrow was getting faster and faster, falling like a meteor. After crossing a long distance, it was aimed precisely at an old farmer. But the farmer didn't seem to notice the arrow at all, nor did he know that he was about to die. Falling. Just as it was about to hit the farmer, the arrow suddenly stopped moving. Assassination? No. The old farmer smiled faintly and took the arrow from above his head. This seems to be a recording technique, although crude, it's quite interesting. Which child's work is this? It's quite impressive, the farmer praised, reached his calloused hand out, touched the jade tag, and lightly tapped it. The jade tag was activated. Right away, a screen of light appeared out of thin air in front of the farmer. A narrow stone path led down from the lake. A wraith stood in front of it. The screen followed the wraith's footsteps until it reached the end of the stone path. Two hovering wraith with talismans stuck all over their bodies appeared in the screen of light. A conversation was heard. Sir, how do you feel? I've received the fixed traction waves of the Snowdrift inheritance. The soul frequency and location of Barren Road of Langlois County have been determined. When the inheritance cultivation progress reaches 75%, I will initiate the first soul exchange. The smile on the farmer's face had completely disappeared. His eyes were filled with coldness. The conversation continued in the screen of light. Viscount Fides, 100 technique has been fully cultivated. Everyone, please prepare yourselves for a complete soul swap. From today onwards, I am Viscount Fides. After I take over his body, I will find Viscount Warren. The soul swap was completed. Viscount Fides was killed on the spot. The screen of light quickly moved, indicating that the observer was leaving this terrifying place. Finally, the screen stopped in a forest. Gu Qing Shan appeared in the light. With a solemn expression, he said, Everyone, I am Rode from Ramon Town, Langlois County, Fran Duchy. I am a baron. I've shown everyone the truth just now. The scene changed. Rode. Baron Rode. You killed a member of our Wraith realm for no reason. We will definitely report this to the Grand Duke of the Duchy and demand justice. Otherwise, we won't let this matter rest. The battle began. You wanted to take my body, so it's only right and proper for me to kill you. No one can say anything. So you already know. The young Rode struggled with all his might in the midst of the spear shadows. He was injured and spat out blood. The video ended. The old farmer stuffed the jade scroll into his mouth, chewed a few times, and swallowed it. There's no problem with the item, after several breaths of silence. Suddenly, someone shouted from afar, Grandpa, the work is done. It's time to go home and eat. The old farmer turned around, and a smile appeared on his wrinkled face. I'm meeting a few old friends today. We're going out for a drink, so I won't be eating at home. Is that so? Then don't drink too much, we'll go back first. Very well, the old farmer watched as they left. After the field returned to silence, he muttered. Deceiving us for so many years. Boom. Boundless killing intent erupted from his body. causing large swathes of the paddy fields to fall to the ground. Like a cannonball, the old farmer shot into the sky, heading towards the ocean. At another location, a jade scroll fell into the forest, hanging on a large tree. What is this? The large tree reached out with its emerald green branches to pick up the jade scroll. A screen appeared. In the middle of a lively banquet, the man wearing a crown was raising a cup of wine, happily chatting with the people around him. He abruptly pointed his finger at the sky. In a split second, an arrow appeared in front of him. There's an assassination. Protect the king. Someone immediately shouted. Protect the king! Protect the king! The scene was in chaos. Fully armored guards appeared one after another. A few hidden experts also appeared, anxiously surrounding the man. You guys, if something really happened, would I still need you to protect the king? The man wearing the crown chuckled. Your Majesty, this arrow, it's no longer powerful. It must have come from a very faraway place and just happened to fall in front of me. What a coincidence. Saying so, the man suddenly remembered something. Everything has the will of God, then what is this? His expression became serious as he took off the jade scroll that was attached to the arrow. This thing is a bit interesting. Let me take a look at what's going on. The screen of light scattered and appeared in front of everyone. A gloomy castle. On top of the balcony, a blood-colored coffin was about to open, but with a thud, an arrow descended from above and stabbed into the coffin. The coffin was surprised. A hand reached out from inside, searched the coffin for a bit, then put the arrow and the jade scroll away. Voices quickly came from inside the coffin. Sir, he's only a baron. Why did you have to use the precious snowdrift and personally take over his body? We still haven't obtained this profession, so the higher-ups are very concerned. Ramon village. In the wilderness outside of the village, Gu Qingshan sat on a chair in the middle of the desolate wilderness, slowly drinking a bottle of liquor. Crow brought the duck plushie and sat across from him. I'm telling you, there really are a few pretty chicks in the bar, Crow excitedly said. But the duck plushie replied, whether they're pretty or not doesn't have anything to do with you right now, does it? Crow tapped the duck plushie's head. You perverted duck, don't. But in Gu Qingshan handed it 2 glasses of liquor and asked, so, what are you trying to say? Why do we have to sit in the middle of nowhere? Crow asked. That's right, we're having a lot of fun at the bar, the duck plushie also replied. We might need to move somewhere else, Gu Qingshan said. Crow and the duck plushie both asked in unison. What? That's right, we might need to go to a larger city, to the center of this world's civilization. I'm not sure if you'll like it. We will. Crow and the duck plushie both nodded. Then let me tell you something first. Gu Qingshan told them about the wraith's soul swapping. Coincidentally, at this moment, several figures gradually appeared in the surrounding darkness. Wraith. Countless wraith. From the forest to the wilderness, squads of wraiths appeared in an orderly and silent manner. They quickly surrounded Gu Qingshan's group. Baron Road, I really must say you're an excellent talent, a voice called out. The wraiths quickly stepped aside, surrounding a single person like a moon surrounded by stars. This person had a head full of white hair, wore a red yiksha mask, exuding the presence of someone who had been at the top for a long time. He stood in front of Gu Qingshan, carefully observing Gu Qingshan. For the past 1,000 years, the people of the Saint Spirit world have never tried to investigate our matters, nor do they suspect anything. You're the only one who has done so, and managed to escape all of our security measures, so you're quite valuable, and so? Gu Qingshan asked. I'll give you a chance, turn into a member of our Wraith realm, disappear from this world, and serve me from now on, the man said. Serve you? I don't even know who you are, Gu Qingshan replied. The man paused, then chuckled. Very well, since the net has already been set up, I'll tell you, I'm Red Wraith. Red Wraith? Indeed, our Wraith realm has 2 rulers, a Heavenly King and a Wraith, and I'm the Wraith. Where's the Heavenly King? We still haven't found him. Now is not the time to talk about that. You should make a choice, whether to die or serve me. Gu Qingshan looked straight at him and asked. I can easily make a choice, but if you're willing to let me live, that means you've given up on taking over my body, right? That's right, Red Wraith nodded. Gu Qingshan continued. If I disappear, wouldn't that be too sudden? Other than using life-stealing body swap, do you not have any other way to replace me? Red Wraith replied. You don't need to worry about that. The scene of a minor baron's death is very easy to fake. We can guarantee that no one will suspect anything, Gu Qingshan replied. Very well, then I have no more questions. Red Wraith's killing intent dissipated, asking, So, you accept? I refuse, Gu Qingshan replied. Red Wraith went silent, thinking that he had misheard. You choose death? He asked. No, Gu Qingshan replied. Then, I said, I refuse. Red Wraith was surprised. Refusing means death. After saying so much, you still chose death? Gu Qingshan smiled and nodded, saying, That's right, come at me. Red Wraith looked at her, then slowly raised his hand. Baron Road, go die. As soon as he said so, Red Wraith didn't attack. He abruptly looked up at the sky. Someone's coming, and they're fast. Alert! Red Wraith suddenly shouted. At the very next split second, a holy ray of light descended from above, directly striking Red Wraith's body and sending him flying. Who is it? The Wraith spread out and sternly called out. A man wearing a crown descended from the sky. I am the Roland Monarch. None of you are worthy to hear my name, the man casually declared. Suddenly, a sharp screech resounded in the air. Boom! Another figure descended from above, landing on the ground. A simple old farmer. His body was still glowing in a green light. He stood up, looked around, then smirked. So many of you, very well, your corpses shall nourish my wheat fields. Following that, the clouds in the sky slowly scattered. One after another, figures descended from above. Several hundred of them had arrived. These people gave off an overwhelming presence, all of which descended around Gu Qingshan. They were the true experts of this world. During the war of the past life, they fought until the very end. All of them were heroes remembered by the world's spirit. In this life, the will of the world had directly sent the jade tag to them. Red Wraith stood up from the ground, looking up at the sky. So many combatants who haven't been taken over. This power is enough to sweep through the entire world. Red Wraith took a deep breath, barely managing to maintain his calm. Sirs, please listen to me. Flames of light erupted. A group of wraiths were sent flying into the sky, their corpses turned into a rain of blood that rained down on the ground. A red-haired woman hovering in mid-air pulled her hand back and muttered, There's nothing to say, all wraiths must die. Chapter 14:14. But, I still love you guys. Please subscribe to the original version. There are so many big shots here, who are really talented. Their words are super interesting, and I really like many of them, like World's Apocalypse Online is too tired today. Let's stop for a while, currently typing. Please wait a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 14:15. The Saint's spirit world was the most powerful world. The most powerful group of people in this world were the strongest combatants of the various parallel worlds. So, what would it be like when they fought? If this was any other world, they would be able to destroy countless worlds with just a wave of their hand. Fortunately, the world origin power here was incredibly powerful, as well as the will of the world manifested from the old gods. The stronger the people, the more powerful the world. That was why they were able to endure the battle of these people. However, as killing intent filled the sky, blood rained down, and the earth trembled, Gu Qingshan couldn't see the rest of the battle anymore. The red-haired woman waved her hand. Gu Qingshan, his chair, crow, and the duck plushie were directly transported away. As a minor baron, as well as a baron's squire, wanting to survive in the most intense war of this world was an extravagant hope. So the three of them were directly thrown far away to avoid being caught up in the battle. They appeared on a boundless ocean, being held up by a temporary thick block of ice. I didn't even have time to resist before I was thrown into the ocean, Crow mused. That's right, they're very strong, Gu Qingshan agreed. He remained sitting on his chair, raised his glass, and slowly took a sip. The ocean was calm. Occasionally, one or two seabirds would fly by, chirping happily. Look, there's a few tuna over there, do you want to? The Gu Qingshan pointed out to the duck plushie. The duck plushie protested. I'm not going into the water. Ha, how regretful, I was going to make you something to eat, Gu Qingshan regretfully said. They're already fighting and you're still talking about food. Are we supposed to just wait here for the results? Crow opened his big beautiful eyes wide, a bit speechless. From the scene of war where a storm was brewing, to suddenly arrive at the calm and peaceful ocean, this contrast was a bit hard to get used to. All of a sudden, an intense wave of power appeared. It appeared at a place extremely far away from the ocean, but with Gu Qingshan and Crow's strength, they were still able to sharply notice this wave of power. The battle has begun, Crow clenched his fist. The duck plushie took out a notebook and did some calculations, then said excitedly, according to the usual rules of spatial magic, only someone 5 times stronger than us can ignore our power and directly teleport through space. In addition to the energy fluctuations we felt just now, divided by the total number of powerhouses that appeared just now, each of them is on average 3 times stronger than the 3 of us combined. He's that impressive? Crow was a bit skeptical. The numbers never lie, the duck plushie said. After saying that, both of them were a little dejected. Crow was already a top-notch titled combatant of Void City, so even if he was weaker than the strongest void monsters, he wouldn't be that much weaker. It was a bit of a blow. When Gu Qingshan saw their expressions, she smiled and said, "Don't be discouraged. This should be the strongest world in history. It's already a great fortune for us to be able to see these experts. If we cultivate here in the future, we will definitely be able to reach their level." He poured wine for both of them, clinked glasses, and drained it in one gulp. Seeing that he had drunk, Crow also drank the wine in his cup. The feeling of drunkenness reverberated in his chest, completely wiping away the dejection he felt just now. Crow adjusted his mentality and asked, "Can you guess how the battle is progressing?" Gu Qingshan replied, "The Wraiths wouldn't be willing to give up so many years of hard work, they will definitely think of a way to salvage the situation, but you've recorded everything, the truth is clear, who else can save them?" The duck plushie leisurely asked while enjoying the sea breeze. "Those who were taken over will definitely think of a way to erase some of the evidence, then rush over to save the Wraiths," Gu Qingshan replied. Crow said, "But everyone knows that they were taken over, so their appearance will only ignite the rage of those combatants." Gu Qingshan went silent briefly, then pondered. "In the worst-case scenario, they will find someone who hasn't been taken over to help them." Crow was surprised. "Someone who hasn't been taken over? Would such a person help them?" Gu Qingshan replied, "In every world, there would always be a few people who are filled with malice towards the world and its living beings. They would wear the disguise of respect while secretly carrying out the cruelest and cruelest of deeds. Their thoughts are not something we can understand." At this point, Shanu's voice silently resounded in Gu Qingshan's thought. "See, Gongzi, since you've learned Snowdrift, if the Wraiths want to make a comeback, you can demonstrate the situation of being taken over in front of everyone. The Earth Sword and I will prepare to kill them." "That won't do," Gu Qingshan replied. "That won't do." "That's right, that time was too difficult, we almost died, we can't stab ourselves again in front of so many people and be in a near-death state, that would be the same as being under someone else's control, then." Shanu hesitated. "Furthermore, the Wraiths would have already dealt with this matter, they wouldn't allow me to demonstrate this evidence." Gu Qingshan put down his glass, stood up, and drew his black bow. "The evidence is—" His hands moved extremely quickly, moving like blurred images as he pulled the bowstring. The arrows turned into streaks of light and flew across the surface of the sea. Eventually, they disappeared into the horizon, disappearing without a trace. I've already fully performed a snowdrift, so I should have been taken over, but nothing has happened. The wraiths had already erased the life-stealing body swap technique from this inheritance as quickly as possible, Gu Qingshan slowly explained. Shanu was a bit worried and muttered in a low voice. Those combatants wouldn't have been convinced, would they? I'm guessing they'll find me to verify the situation again, Gu Qingshan replied. Shanu was now truly worried and asked, Gongzi, what should we do now? The wraiths must have already prepared something and are waiting for me, but the most they can do is find out that I made a lot of jade tags, so the most they'll do is make things difficult for the jade tags and accuse me of making them fake. Gu Qingshan took out the original jade tag and kept stroking it. But they don't know that this jade tag in my hand is their own. It contains the most original records of this world's original time and space, and with the world spirit as proof, they can't accuse me of making it fake. Strange, why haven't they called me over yet? Did the wraiths give up? As soon as he said so, he vanished from the surface of the ice. Outside Ramon village, Gu Qingshan suddenly appeared. Several hundred combatants' gazes were focused on him. In front of them, countless wraiths were prostrating on the ground, displaying a gesture of surrender. In front of the wraiths stood a few combatants in luxurious clothing. He's here, this Baron is here. There's nothing wrong with his projection, but he made it up himself. It's time to let everyone know the truth, he was indeed lying. That's right, none of you seriously think about it. That jade tag was clearly made by him later on. The combatants all spoke up. Gu Qingshan coldly glanced at them, then turned to the combatants around him. He took out the original jade tag and raised it high in his hand. At that moment, everyone's gazes were focused on the jade tag. This was the wraith's jade tag. It contained the most original records of the wraith. The other side's expressions changed. But how could this reaction fool the combatants? They surrounded Gu Qingshan in the middle, cautiously preparing their defenses. An old farmer took the jade tag from Gu Qingshan's hand, closed his eyes to sense it, then said, Using a temporal technique, we can see the truth. I believe there are no issues. At the same time, without waiting for anyone else to say anything, Gu Qingshan had already locked the title to the most flirtatious man. Title skill activated. Gu Qingshan spoke. Everyone, I am only a minor baron, but the jade tag in my hand is the most original recording jade tag. Regardless of what others say, a jade tag is still a jade tag. With your strength, you should be able to tell if it's real or not. So the truth is, the wraiths are unwilling to give up on their many years of work, attempting to make their final struggle to continue controlling this world. Furthermore, the fact that they know this technique is an evil in itself. When our saint spirit world wants to kill someone, do we still need to be reasonable? Everyone went silent. All of a sudden, the combatants all began to express their opinions. That's right, they deserve to die for having such thoughts, not to mention the current situation. That's right, there's no need to say anything else, just kill them. That's right, an apocalypse is approaching, we can't let these wraiths watch from the sidelines. Then, kill! Countless powerful techniques abruptly manifested in front of Gu Qingshan's eyes. Someone waved their hand. The scene shook. Gu Qingshan had returned to the ocean. Crow and the duck plushie were each holding a fishing rod, seriously fishing. Gu Qingshan sat down on a chair and sighed comfortably. How is it? Did they ask you anything? Crow asked. I didn't let them, Gu Qingshan replied. And then? The duck plushie asked. They started fighting, Gu Qingshan replied. There won't be any more questions, will there? Crow asked. If you hesitate any longer, you won't be worthy of being called a combatant, Gu Qingshan smiled. TSK, a world-shaking battle that we didn't even get the chance to witness with our own eyes, the duck plushie sighed emotionally. Crow coldly laughed, then said, Even I don't have the qualifications to be there. A duck like you would die if you went. Saying so, he raised his fishing rod and pulled a large fish out of the water. Do you know how to cook fish from the sea? He asked Gu Qingshan. I do know a bit. Gu Qingshan crouched down and looked at the fish with interest. All of a sudden, she felt a burning sensation on her wrist. The blue skull pattern disappeared, turning into the pattern of clashing swords and blades. The world faded away from Gu Qingshan's vision. Complete darkness. Endless starlight descended, circling around Gu Qingshan and whispering into her ears. The Saint Spirit world and Wraith realm have officially broken off relations. The war has begun. You've proven your strength and wisdom. Please fight together with us. We shall further protect you. At the same time, a line of glowing text appeared on the war god UI. Frowny face. You've obtained the recognition of the world spirit. From now on, there is no need to expend soul points. At the corner of the UI, the soul points number that was continuously decreasing suddenly stopped. Gu Qingshan glanced at it. There was still over 200 million soul points left. That's not bad. The vast starlight faded away. The darkness faded away. The world returned to normal. Blue sky, blue ocean, wind blowing. Birds were flying. On top of a block of ice, Crow and the duck plushie were focused on fishing. Gu Qingshan rolled up her sleeves, picked up the fish, and seriously thought about what kind of lunch she should make. Chapter 14-16. In the wilderness. After Gu Qingshan was sent away, the atmosphere abruptly changed. Now that I think about it, a few dozen million years ago, the Wraith realm was a slave world that we conquered, the red-haired woman said. Indeed, according to historical records, they didn't fight against us for too long before they bowed down and willingly became our dogs, the old farmer said with his hands clasped behind his back. So they've always been plotting something, but what exactly do they want from our world after waiting for so many years? A young girl wearing a pure white dress and a staff in hand commented. The man wearing a crown coldly laughed, then replied, regardless of what they want, if we kill them all, there's no longer any possibility. That is, it is so, a great tree replied. Instantly, intense killing intent filled the entire battlefield. While they were talking, the blood-red masked Red Wraith understood that there was nothing he could do to salvage the situation. Countless schemes and secret operations over the long years had been foiled by a 15-year-old Baron today. How regretful, Red Wraith sighed. One of the combatants in front of him had already raised his hand and unleashed a technique. Red Wraith understood that this was a matter of life and death, so he didn't bother to resist and allowed the technique to blow away his subordinates, killing them on the spot. Everyone. He clasped his fist. Allow me to say one last thing, you must listen to this. Sure enough, the combatants of the Saint Spirit world were looking at him. Red Wraith smirked slyly. Taking advantage of this brief moment of opportunity, several hundred wraiths surrounded him, all of them forming hand seals and shouting, "With the power of my death, Wraith Mountain Technique, activate!" Their bodies fused together and instantly exploded, turning into a crimson shadow. The curtain of shadow separated the combatants from the wraiths. Red Wraith retreated step by step. The powerful wraiths surrounded him, taking out their formation plates, and began to arrange them. Do you really think you can escape? The red-haired woman coldly smirked. Her body turned into a several dozen meter-long bird of flames that crashed into the crimson shadow. The flames rose to the sky. The bird of flames was bounced back into the air. Strange, this seems to be a unique power of law. The bird of flames spoke in human language. The experts all tried to attack it with all their might, but the dark red light only shook and did not shatter. It's useless. The lives of hundreds of powerful evil spirits can only hold on for 5 breaths of time. Red Wraith sighed again. Hundreds of experts gave up everything just to help him fight for a chance to escape. The price was too high. Around Red Wraith, the remaining wraiths moved very quickly, setting up a long-distance warp formation in just a single breath's worth of time. Red Wraith then said, "Everyone, you've caused me to lose a lot of capable soldiers. Once I return to the Wraith realm, I will definitely lead my army here to fight against you all." He cupped his fists and bowed, saying deeply, "If I don't take revenge, I'm not a gentleman." 5 breaths were over. Red Wraith didn't hesitate any longer, stepped into the warp formation, and slowly disappeared. Meanwhile, on the sea, "If the Wraiths want to run away this time, they'll be dreaming," Gu Qingshan said. "Why?" Crow asked while eating his fried fish. Gu Qingshan poured herself a full glass of liquor, comfortably took a sip, then explained. "The current world is actually the fusion of 3 worlds after they were destroyed. Then, it came from 3 parallel worlds, using the power of fusion to perform a temporal reversal. Through the temporal reversal, everyone in the Saint Spirit world was revived, returning time to the era when this world was at its most powerful. This caused a problem. The flow of time in the Saint Spirit world is completely different from the flow of time in the space vortex where we are," the duck plushie called out. "I understand now, the Wraiths can only obediently stay in this world, unable to go to other worlds. Because the flow of time is different, the 3 great laws of reality wouldn't allow them to enter other worlds within the space vortex, otherwise it would cause temporal distortion." "Correct," Gu Qingshan praised. He tossed a piece of meat pie to the duck plushie, then watched as it enjoyed it. Crow thought for a bit, then asked, "What will happen to this world from now on?" Gu Qingshan shook her head. "A calamity from a parallel world. A part of it turned into fate corrosion and was used by the Wraiths to deal with the eternal abyss. A part of the destroyed world has already disappeared without a trace, leaving only this Saint Spirit world. I don't know what will happen to it either." He suddenly sensed something and took out the black leather book. The black leather book automatically flipped to a page, showing the empty Crimson Demon Divine Spear card slot and the Divine Word, Purify card. Under Gu Qingshan's gaze, the black leather book flipped to another page. There were 3 card slots on this page. 2 of the slots were empty, but the 3rd slot had a card. The card depicted the terrifying scene of the world's destruction. Below the card was the card's name and explanation. Frowny face card. World's Confusion. This is a card created by the world's spirit to facilitate communication with you among the many parallel worlds. Almost none of them were more powerful than the Saint Spirit world, but the Wraiths had their eyes on the Saint Spirit world, spending countless years to push it into a state of destruction. If they only wanted to cause a massive fate corrosion, this reason seems too weak. Both the deities and the world's spirit were confused by this. In the following battle, I hope that you will be able to further investigate the Wraith's secrets and find out the reason behind their actions. If you successfully obtain the answer, you may use this card to directly communicate with the world's spirit and obtain a precious card from the inner plane, Armor of Condemnation. Gu Qingshan quickly finished reading through it, feeling a bit tempted. Investigating the Wraith realm's secrets was something he wanted to do in the first place. And now, if I can complete this task, I'll even obtain the Armor of Condemnation. The best armor he had before was given to Su Cher, but all of the armors after that were quickly destroyed. Items from the Condemnation series were all exceptionally powerful. Right now, Gu Qingshan really wanted a good armor. Holding the card in hand, he hurriedly asked, "Can I take a look at what the Armor of Condemnation looks like? That way, I'll be even more motivated." There was a strange fluctuation on the card. The world's spirit responded to him. A faint image of a card slowly manifested between the 2 empty card slots. It was a milky white armor. Most of the skin was exposed, only a few crucial locations were covered by armor plates. Fortunately, the back of the armor was a bit more complex, with 2 white wings about the size of a palm. The wings could still move. At the bottom of the card, there was also a name: Frowny Face Divine Armor. Cherub of Condemnation. A solemn voice resounded by Gu Qingshan's ears. Frowny Face, as the deity of condemnation, I grant thee the Cherub of Condemnation armor. Looking at the armor, Gu Qingshan was almost petrified. He held the O World's Confusion card tightly in his hand and resolutely declared, "No, this armor definitely won't do. If you give me this armor, I'll turn against you." The world's confusion card gave off a long vibration, as if the world's spirit was truly doubtful. A few moments later, a line of text appeared on the card. Frowny face. Why? I can sense your desire for a set of armor. This is the reward I've carefully prepared according to your deity. Gu Qingshan controlled his emotions and calmly replied, "Please give me a set of armor that won't make people laugh." The world's confusion card trembled again. New text appeared on the card. Frowny face. Then, you shall receive the armor of a condemnation warrior, the armor of a condemner. Are you truly willing to give up the divine armor for a set of armor of the mortal world? This time, Gu Qingshan was even more cautious and said, "Please let me take a look at what this armor looks like." No problem. From the 2 empty slots on the card, the cherub armor disappeared and a new figure slowly manifested. This was a set of silver chainmail armor with faint golden runes inlaid on it, giving it a rather imposing appearance. Gu Qingshan sighed in relief. "Very well, this is it," he confirmed. A line of text appeared on the world's confusion card. "It's a deal. You must find out the true reason why the wraiths attacked this world, then the world's origin power will manifest an armor card for you." "It's a deal," Gu Qingshan replied. The card flew from his hand and returned to the slot. The black leather book closed. At another location, Red Wraith led the wraiths and stood in the wilderness. The powerful defensive technique that lasted for 5 breaths worth of time had already disappeared. Around them, the heroes of the Saint's spirit world slowly gathered. "You said you want to lead an army here?" A burly man clenched his fist and asked. He also said that he wouldn't be a gentleman if he didn't get his revenge." The red-haired woman crossed her arms. Red Wraith's face was covered in cold sweat. He really didn't know why he couldn't teleport away from the Saint's spirit world. Chapter 14-17. 2 days later. A certain city. A sharp arrow pierced through the air, whistling like a whistle as it pierced through a long street and nailed a man to a wall. "Save me!" The man struggled to call out. "Save?" A female voice called out. Crow slid down from the wall and stared at the man with interest. The man begged, "I'm really not a wraith, I'm just a civilian, please don't kill me." Crow drew her rapier and smiled. "Unfortunately, I've never been soft-hearted when it comes to killing. I'm not lying." The man struggled to raise his hand and pointed at the unlatched door behind him. Inside the door, a woman was holding a baby in her arms, looking at Crow with a fearful expression. As Crow glanced at her, her expression became complicated. She shouted towards the end of the street, "Hey, did you make a mistake this time? Perhaps that bastard won't harm civilians?" There was no response from the end of the street. The wind howled. Perhaps because Crow's voice was too loud, the baby was frightened and started crying. Crow looked at the end of the street and muttered in irritation, "This great one was born a combatant. I've never come into contact with a normal person. What are we going to do with this civilian?" All of a sudden, Gu Qingshan's voice came from next to him. "Let me take a look." Gu Qingshan tied the bow to her back, placed one hand on the man's chest, the other holding the black leather book, and muttered, "The life and death of all things is but an instant. With my power of condemnation, your suffering shall be alleviated." Divine word, cleanse. The man's body abruptly trembled and lost all signs of life on the spot. "No!" The woman's cries resounded. She rushed out of the room with the baby in her arms, hurriedly running towards the man's corpse. Crow looked at the corpse, then at the woman, then hurriedly said, "Hey, this is a normal person without any abilities. What are we going to do?" Gu Qingshan didn't say anything, but held the bow in her hand. "You?" Crow anxiously shouted. Gu Qingshan ignored him and raised her bow to shoot. A bolt of lightning shot out from the bowstring, pierced through the woman's shoulder, then dragged her away and pinned her to the wall. "Arg!" The woman's body twitched, screaming in pain. By the time she was hit by the arrow, the baby in her hand had already been thrown out and was about to hit another wall. Crow hurriedly went to pick up the baby. Gu Qing flew forward, held the girl down with one hand, and took out the black handbook with the other, quickly chanting, "The life and death of all things is but an instant. With my power of condemnation, your suffering shall surely be relieved. Divine word technique, cleanse." The woman's body trembled, and immediately, a black shadow flew out from her body and slowly disappeared. At this point, Crow had caught the baby and was looking at Gu Qing and the woman with concern. "Leave the baby!" Gu Qing suddenly roared. In Crow's arms, the crying baby abruptly reached out with both hands and stabbed towards Crow. The baby's face was ferocious, and his hands turned into sharp claws. He only needed one strike to cut off anyone's neck. He had almost succeeded. But at the very last moment, intense cold air erupted from Crow's body, directly freezing the baby inside a crystal-clear block of ice. "Go!" The duck plushie jumped out from Crow's arms and kicked the block of ice away. Noticing that he had lost his chance, a mass of black fog slowly manifested around his body. The fog then manifested into a wraith figure wearing a red mask, staring straight at Gu Qing. "Road," the wraith figure spoke, 60% of the normal people in this world are under my control. You won't be able to kill me." His tone became mocking. "Or perhaps you've always enjoyed slaughtering civilians? Very well, I'll satisfy you. Wherever you go, I guarantee that all civilians will die without a trace," Gu Qing casually replied. "These people are already dead. Not even their souls exist anymore, otherwise, after I dispelled your technique just now, they would have revived and not died." Crow was soaked in cold sweat earlier, so he angrily shouted, "Bastard, you would even kill a baby, you piece of trash!" He thrust his sword forward. The wraith figure was instantly shattered, leaving only a few scattered voices. "Strange. Condemners, could it be or not?" The voices disappeared. Red Wraith's technique had ended. Omaki walked forward to check the 3 corpses, then said, "It's still the same technique, normally undetectable, only after it's activated will the soul be instantly killed, turning it into a corpse that can be controlled from afar." He shivered, muttering in a low voice, "The Wraith realm actually has such a cruel technique? Our Void Library had never noticed it before." Gu Qing glanced at the corpses on the ground. A family of 3. If the Wraiths hadn't invaded, they would have been able to live a peaceful life, instead of being reduced to corpses like they were now. 2 days ago, in the wilderness outside of Ramon Village, the combatants of the Saint Spirit world had eliminated a large number of Wraiths. Red Wraith used some sort of unknown technique to escape with his body alone. This was only the beginning. As the truth was revealed, the combatants came up with many solutions, finally publicizing 7 divine techniques to identify the Wraiths in order to uncover the hidden Wraiths and help the people eliminate them. What they didn't expect was that the Wraiths had been plotting for countless years in the Saint Spirit world, had taken over a large number of aristocrats, and even civilians were under their control. The Age of Chaos had finally arrived. One of the 2 great empires, the Frost Empire, immediately declared that they wouldn't accept any techniques examination, stating that everything was an illusion, an excuse for the combatants to destroy the empire. From top to bottom, the entire empire was preparing for war. The combatants of the empire immediately began to invade other dukedoms, calling it a preemptive war of righteousness. This was very clear. The Wraiths had taken over the majority of the combatants of this empire, as well as taking control of everything. Meanwhile, the other empire, the Roland Empire, after a series of intense investigations, found that very few Wraiths had taken over their territory. Turns out this was related to the customs of the empire. The aristocrats of the Roland Empire believed that anything given by others must first be offered to the deities. They would soak the inherited techniques, treasures, and armors given by the Wraiths in the sacred ritual spring, offering them to the deities before taking them for themselves. The sacred ritual spring naturally carried a purifying effect, so any treasures that were soaked in it would lose their ability to be taken over. The Wraiths didn't have any good solutions to this, nor did they dare to try and shake this type of faith. In the end, the Wraiths had no choice but to offer the Roland Empire's aristocrats a few decent items, focusing their attention on the Frost Empire. The dukedom that Gu Qingshan resided in was a part of the Frost Empire. And now, the two great empires had completely fallen out, or rather, the Wraiths had finally revealed their true colors. War had erupted without any argument. This time, everyone was caught up in it. The city seems to be about to fall, should we lend a hand? Crow asked. Gu Qingshan followed him to bury the three corpses, then looked towards the depths of the city. The shadows there were filled with people. People who had been taken over by the Wraiths. The military, civilians, aristocrats, all of them were doing their best to stop the Roland Empire's attack. These people were actually the Wraiths who had taken over their bodies. Red Wraith had used some sort of unknown technique that allowed him to take control of any person's body at any time and issue orders to the Wraith. The sound of explosions from the spells resounded continuously across the sky. The earth and buildings were both trembling, occasionally giving off the sound of collapsing. The siege of the city was still ongoing. Gu Qingshan sighed, then said, "Let's return to the Roland Empire for a bit. Today's nobility ceremony will be held, so we need to have authority in hand to better deal with the problem," Crow agreed. "That's true, but after the nobility ceremony is over, I want to kill the Wraiths again." Gu Qingshan looked at him, only to see that his eyes were filled with uncontrollable killing intent. "All right, I'll come with you," Gu Qingshan said. A white fog manifested out of nowhere and enveloped the two of them like a tornado. They left the war-torn streets of the city. The Roland Empire. The capital, Holy Crown City. As soon as Gu Qingshan and the others returned to their rooms, they heard a knock on the door. "Road, His Majesty has summoned you." Gu Qingshan opened the door and followed the guards into the palace. After numerous inspections, he and Crow were finally led into the palace. From afar, they could see the Emperor of the Roland Empire discussing the current state of the war with other combatants. Occasionally, someone would come to report the latest military situation. The sense of urgency of war naturally arose in Gu Qingshan's mind. The guard had Gu Qingshan and Crow stay where they were while he stepped forward and loudly reported, "Your Majesty, Road has been brought here." All the voices of discussion disappeared. The combatants all turned to look at Gu Qingshan. Emperor Roland also put away his solemn expression and smiled as he walked towards Gu Qingshan. The first person to discover the Wraith scheme was a young man, and a rare condemner. In truth, it has been a very long time since a condemner has appeared on the continent. The Church of Condemners is nothing but an empty shell. He drew his ceremonial sword and lightly touched Gu Qingshan's shoulder. "Road, I have a question," Emperor Roland said. "Please go ahead, Your Majesty," Gu Qingshan replied. Emperor Roland said, "I want to know why you would doubt the Wraith's gift. You should know that this has been the norm for over 1,000 years. Everyone has already gotten used to it," Gu Qingshan replied. "Your Majesty, something like reaping without sowing would always make me feel uneasy, so I don't mind thinking of it with the worst of intentions." Emperor Roland fell into thought for a bit. "You're right, the reason why we were fooled by the Wraiths was because we were too powerful, causing us to develop arrogance and prejudice, but I guarantee that it won't happen again from now on." Saying so, he heavily tapped both of Gu Qingshan's shoulders with the ceremonial sword and muttered, "I, the King of Roland, Friedrich, hereby confer Baron Road the title of Viscount of the Holy Roland Empire, and for his salvation and contribution to all of mankind, confer the title of Earl of Midnight. May your heart be like a blazing holy light, dispelling all darkness in this world, ensuring that the night never descends upon living beings." Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised. Emperor Roland put the ceremonial sword away and patted his shoulder. "Truthfully, the title of Count doesn't match your contributions, but you're only 15 years old. I can't give you too much power, that would only ruin you. Do you have any objections?" "I do not," Gu Qingshan replied. Very well, it's currently a time of war, so everything should be kept simple, but the things you should receive will not be missing, someone will bring you to receive them. Yes, by the way, what do you want to do next? The territory I'm giving you is one of the best vacation spots in the Empire. Go take a look first, Your Majesty. I was the one who first discovered the wraiths. I want to go to the battlefield. Emperor Roland smiled. The combatants also looked at Gu Qingshan with a bit of a smile in their eyes. What a nice little guy. The red-haired beauty licked her lips and muttered. That's right, a new condemner, the old farmer sighed. Emperor Roland's attitude also became a bit friendlier and said, Rode, you are a nice child, you will definitely become a pillar of the Empire in the future, there is no doubt about that, but you're only 15 years old right now, you need to be protected. Through the tempering of time, you need to grow up properly, and you also need to meet a few like-minded friends. I even hope that you can find some love here. Before Gu Qingshan could say anything else, Emperor Roland had already patted his shoulder. Don't worry, with so many combatants here, we're more than enough to handle the war. Servants, bring our new count away, he needs a formal attire to show his status. Chapter 14-18. Together with Crow, Gu Qingshan was led away by the ceremonial officer. Following the luxurious carpet, 6 maids were standing at the end of the path, waiting for Gu Qingshan. The ceremonial officer looked at the 6 maids, then at Gu Qingshan. What? Gu Qingshan didn't understand and also looked back at the ceremonial officer. At this point, the maids bowed and spoke in unison. Sir Count, your formal attire has been prepared, you may return. Very well. The ceremonial officer returned the greeting, then turned to leave. He didn't pay any more attention to Gu Qingshan's gaze. The 6 maids received Gu Qingshan and Crow, led them up a few flights of stairs, then upstairs to a lounge. Another maid was waiting for them here. The 6 maids walked in front of her and bowed in unison. Manager, Sir Count has arrived. The woman had a plain appearance, but gave off the air of a steward. She said, Greetings, Sir Count. His Majesty has ordered me and my maids to arrange your attire, travel, introduction of your fief, and gifts from the aristocrats. Don't worry, there won't be any issues, not to mention, you don't need to be afraid of these things. Furthermore, you have a residence in Holy Crown City, as well as the necessary personnel. Thank you very much, Gu Qingshan said. The woman then explained. Sir Count, as well as your knight, as you have never been to the Roland Empire before, your formal attire was made as quickly as possible. Please try it on first, we'll change it if there are any issues. Thank you, I'll try it on right away, Gu Qingshan nodded. Crow also nodded in return. The 2 of them were originally barons of a small duchy under the rule of the Frost Empire. Now that the Frost Empire had been taken over by the Wraiths, they had also come to the Roland Empire, so the people here naturally hadn't seen them before, nor did they know their measurements. Very quickly, a full set of count attire was placed in front of Gu Qingshan. His hat, his coat, his short scepter, his trousers and his boots were all black. Only the shirt beneath was white. In front of Crow was a neat and tidy female military uniform, also black. According to the regulations of the Roland Empire, knights were required to wear military uniforms in non-combat situations to show their status. The Roland Empire's aristocratic clothing advocated black, believing that this color was formal, solemn, and represented authority. The woman winked at the maids and said, Go, help the Count undress. No need. Gu Qingshan hurriedly stopped her good intentions and said, Let me wear it myself. Crow also said, That's right, we'll wear it ourselves, no need for help. The woman was taken aback for a moment before realization dawned on her. The Count was only 15 years old, so it was normal for him to be shy. As for his knight, with such a beautiful face, he was afraid that she was not just a simple knight. Perhaps she would be the one to help the Count put on his clothes. The woman maintained a dignified and gentle expression on her face. She led the maids and said, Then we will wait outside the door. Please try on your formal attire first. Got it, Gu Qingshan and Crow both replied. The maids retreated. The door closed. The two of them began to put on and take off their clothes. Crow, go inside, there's another changing room, Gu Qingshan told Crow. Crow looked down at herself, then took the entire set of clothes and left. The duck plushie followed behind her. Gu Qingshan changed into her formal attire, held the count's scepter in hand, and looked at herself in the mirror. It's all right, it seems a bit more dignified. Crow also quickly changed into a military uniform and walked over. You look quite experienced in this uniform, Crow commented. You can call the maids in now, Gu Qingshan said. Wait a minute. Crow suddenly took out a flying bird emblem, closed his eyes and sensed it for a bit, then said, on the entire battlefront, the Roland Empire and the Frost Empire both have their own victories and defeat. In the small city called Whites that we went to before, the war has reached its climax. Gu Qingshan glanced at the emblem in his hand and asked, Can you see who has the upper hand? Crow scowled. I can vaguely see that the Wraiths have the upper hand. Because that city is their territory, they've already set up numerous traps. The Roland Empire's army has suffered greatly. They won't be able to hold on for much longer. Shall we go and fight? Gu Qingshan suggested. Crow agreed. Let's go. A white fog descended from above, bringing the two of them away from the room. As soon as they left, the door was pushed open. The girl from before came in with 6 maids. At this point, her presence was completely different from before, becoming even more lofty and imposing. The 6 maids also became even more cautious. The girl scoffed, then muttered, He's clearly 2 years younger than me, yet father still wants me to come take a look. His eyes are getting worse and worse. Saying so, she gestured with her hand. One of the maids appeared troubled and said, Your Highness, the Count is changing clothes. He is changing clothes in my territory, the girl casually replied. The maid had no choice but to take down a book from a certain spot on the wall and chanted an incantation. A screen appeared on the book. The scene from before slowly appeared in front of their eyes. Gu Qingshan had Crow change clothes on the other side. The two of them went their separate ways. The maids hurriedly lowered their heads. The girl watched with a serious expression. A few moments later, Crow returned and told them about the front lines. The two of them disappeared into the white fog. The scene ended. White City. The girl chanted, then ordered. Adjust the perspective of White City's war. I want to observe it now. Understood. The white fog scattered. Gu Qingshan and Crow appeared on the street from before. The street was covered in blood and corpses. A series of explosions rang out in the sky. The fluctuations of the technique were comparable to a continuous earthquake. The two of them weren't in a hurry to act and first hid behind the door. Crow drew his rapier and asked, How do we fight? After these wraiths take over, it seems they can't use the Guy's Hex and life talismans from before, Gu Qingshan pondered. But they've grasped the various powers of this world, not at all inferior to the Roland Empire's army, Crow replied. This proves one thing, the true bodies of the old gods weren't in this world from the very beginning. Otherwise, as soon as the old gods stripped those people of their powers, this war would have been won without a doubt, Gu Qingshan pondered. Let's go, but this is a large-scale war, so we have to wear armor. Crow took out a set of armor. This was the title Hitman armor he wore when he was still a man, so it was a bit too big for him to wear right now. Fortunately, he was wearing a full military uniform, so he was barely able to fit into this set of armor. Gu Qingshan also took out a set of silver armor with golden patterns, lightly patted it, then put it on. Lines of glowing text appeared on the War God UI frowny face armor of condemnation, primary. A sturdy, magic repellent. This simple introduction was a bit too simple. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but recall the little angel armor from before. That was a divine armor. But it looked like a bikini with a pair of tiny wings on its back. Forget it. Gu Qingshan drew her black bow and sent her voice. Crow, my current identity is that of a bow user, so I can't easily expose my swordsmanship. However, a snowdrift isn't very useful in close combat, and my other bow techniques aren't enough to deal with these enemies. But this bow has the power of time, capable of shortening flight time, while I can imbue my arrows with the power of lightning to restrict the enemy's movement. Crow asked. How long can you restrict the enemy? 5 seconds, Gu Qingshan replied. Crow's expression changed. That's enough. I'll follow your arrows, so if anything happens to you, I'll come back and protect you. Got it. Gu Qingshan replied. The two of them rushed out the door. Gu Qingshan raised her hand to draw the bow, then abruptly let go. 5 dark blue arrows of lightning flew out in a row, drawing arcs in the air as they shot towards the Frost Empire's soldiers outside. Shifting flurry. Lightning thaumaturgy. Dream jolt? Gu Qingshan didn't stop there. Her hands turned into blurred images as she pulled the bowstring again and again. The sky was filled with flashes of lightning. Crow followed behind the flashes of lightning. Whenever the flashes of lightning hit an enemy, his sword would pierce through the enemy and turn them into a burning corpse. After a few dozen seconds, the enemies in this block were slowly cleared out by the two of them. Crow landed next to Gu Qingshan and said, They're all normal soldiers, there's no challenge at all. Gu Qingshan released her inner sight and spoke with a serious expression. Be careful, the more enemies we kill, the easier it is to draw the attention of powerful monsters. Crow didn't mind. It's fine, with your lightning arrows and my flame explosion sword, unless it's a magic scale dragon of this world. He suddenly realized something and quickly shut his mouth. Gu Qingshan's eyebrows were already raised. Boom! A black figure descended from above, landing in front of the two of them. This was a dragon that was almost 100 meters long. By simply landing, its gigantic body had destroyed every building in the entire block. It really is a magic scale dragon. The duck plushie covered his face and muttered in despair. Gu Qingshan sighed. The magic scale dragon had a dragon armor that could resist elemental attacks. Combined with draconic magic and sharp claws, it was an opponent that could only be defeated by physical attacks. But defeating a dragon with physical attacks alone wasn't easy at all. The magic scale dragon exhaled deeply. The intense wind almost blew the duck plushie away, but Crow caught it and stuffed it into his pocket. This guy isn't easy to deal with. I'll go first. Crow swung his sword. A layer of burning magma appeared on his blade. I'll go first. Fortunately, it's quite chaotic here, so no one noticed us, Gu Qingshan muttered. Even if they did, it wouldn't be a problem, as most dragons were old scoundrels who were good at hiding their identities, so they didn't like to reveal their true identities. Gu Qingshan let go of his bow and took a step back. Boundless black smoke began to spread from his body. The black dragon's form slowly manifested. Roar! The dark magic dragon who had fused 3 dragons' power abruptly appeared and charged towards the magic scale dragon. At another location, the Roland Empire, Holy Crown City, the Royal Palace. Within the screen of light, 2 dragons soared into the sky, letting out a deafening roar. The woman silently watched this scene. Not only the Condemner, but also the dragon race? That's interesting, she murmured softly. Chapter 14:19. On the battlefield, the sounds of battle resounded. The battle between the two empires had reached its climax. Above the clouds, the roars of the 2 dragons as they fought caused everyone's hearts to skip a beat. The magic scale dragon's scales were as tough as steel, so it slammed into the black dragon's body and sent him flying out of the battlefield. The black dragon slowly turned around in midair, regaining his senses. Be careful, his attacks are very methodical, Crow loudly said. When Gu Qingshan turned into a black dragon, he had already jumped onto the black dragon's back and followed Gu Qingshan into the sky. Gu Qingshan replied, I haven't been a dragon for very long, so I'm not too familiar with pure melee combat, Crow reminded him. You can infuse some of your skills into your attacks, it'll work just as well. Understood. Gu Qingshan uttered a dragon roar and charged into the battlefield again. The two dragons fought back and forth in the sky, fighting each other. A few moments later, the magic scale dragon swung its tail and struck the black dragon's chest, sending him flying again. What a fool with nothing but strength! The magic scale dragon mocked. The black dragon stopped his retreat and abruptly disappeared. He reappeared right above the magic scale dragon, opened his mouth and breathed out a jet of dark blue dragon flames. I've been waiting for you. The magic scale dragon raised its head and breathed out another jet of dark yellow flames. The two flames clashed and spread in every direction. From afar, it looked like a sea of flames that engulfed the world. But this time, the magic scale dragon miscalculated. The black dragon had the power of 3 dragons, so the dark blue and black flames it breathed out were much more powerful than normal dragons. The magic scale dragon was enveloped by the intense flames. It's useless. The magic scale dragon endured inside the sea of flames for a bit, its scales giving off a metallic clanking noise. It roared, "I am a magic scale body, I don't fear elemental damage." Saying so, it charged out of the sea of flames and charged at the black dragon again. Dong! A resounding impact. The two dragons clashed, giving off a powerful shockwave. The magic scale dragon took that chance and bit down on the black dragon's neck, tearing off a large chunk of flesh. Idiot with flaws all over his body. The magic scale dragon spat out a mouthful of blood and flesh and said mockingly. The black dragon, however, suddenly stretched out a dragon claw and pressed it firmly against the other's head, shouting, "Hurry! Fast!" While the magic scale dragon was puzzled, it suddenly felt a sharp pain. Inside its mouth, Crow pulled out his rapier and stabbed it straight into the creature's throat. Just now, Gu Qingshan had purposely left an opening, which allowed Crow to avoid the magic scales and enter the dragon's mouth. Even though it had incomparably tough dragon scales, its mouth was not protected by the dragon scales. Air currents gathered around Crow's body like wind. It's been a long time since I used my full strength. After saying that, Crow raised his sword and stabbed with all his might. Boom! A violent explosion sounded from the dragon's mouth. Many of the scales on the dragon's head burst open and scattered into the sky. Blood splattered everywhere. The magic scale dragon pushed the black dragon away and let out a miserable howl that resounded through the sky. Crow took that chance to retreat, landing on the black dragon's body. "This feels so good. How do we fight next?" he loudly asked. The black dragon replied, "It's probably going to go berserk after this, so I need to use an unstoppable power to deal with it. Make sure to pay attention to your own safety." Crow's expression turned serious and replied, "Got it." At the very next moment, the magic scale dragon abruptly roared in anger. "Treacherous bastard, you think you can deal with me just like that? I want you dead right now." Frenzied killing intent erupted from its body. Layers upon layers of raging flames manifested on its body. The air was filled with chaotic magical fluctuations. The black dragon god became even more cautious, silently pulled away, stabilized his body in the sky, and prepared himself. The magic scale dragon stared at him, then suddenly spoke. "You strange dragon, what exactly are you?" Spitting out dragon flames of 3 different colors, green, black, and red, and even asking for help from a human in a fight. "Don't say that I look down on you, I look down on you." The black dragon's expression changed. A layer of white fog several hundred meters wide manifested out of nowhere, enveloped the black dragon, and disappeared. The magic scale dragon froze. "Strange. I only just started and it already ran away?" The magic scale dragon muttered. Several 10,000 miles away. Ramon Village. A mass of white fog descended from above. The black dragon turned back into Gu Qingshan and left the white fog together with Crow. "Why did we suddenly run away?" Crow asked in confusion. "I was unleashing an irresistible power, but it was also unleashing draconic magic, Gu Qing-shan replied. He glanced at the war god UI, only to see a line of glowing text flashing on it, frowny face combat warning. You've been struck by draconic magic, red shadow dragon hex, chaos, chaos. For every 30 incantation chanted, the target's perception will be lowered by 1 level. Your perception has been lowered by 1 level. Combat note. Your perception has a total of 21 levels. Fortunately, you managed to escape in time, otherwise, all of your perception would have been stripped away, and you would have become nothing but a punching bag. Gu Qing-shan silently sighed in relief, but also felt like cursing. These dragons really are too treacherous. Fortunately, I've prepared myself. Strange, my perception towards my surroundings seems to have been obscured by something. Crow spoke up. Me too, the duck plushie's voice came from inside her pocket. Gu Qing-shan then explained the draconic magic to him. Crow was naturally shocked and couldn't help but curse. A bunch of old scoundrels. I've always heard that dragons are shady entities, but I didn't think their magic would be the same. The duck plushie peeked his head out of Crow's pocket and asked, I've always heard that draconic magic is irresistible, and it seems like that was indeed the case. What do we do now? Are we going back? No, Gu Qing-shan shook his head. He drew his black bow and slowly knocked an arrow on the bowstring. Your strike just now was very timely. A few of the scales on its head were broken, Gu Qing-shan said. Crow was in disbelief. This place is over 80,000 miles away from White City. You want to use an arrow to pierce through the cracks on its head? Gu Qing-shan replied. After all, I've already sensed the presence of its blood. A line of glowing text appeared in the void of space. Frowny face activating divine skill. Snowdrift, each arrow fired will cost 800,000 soul points. Gu Qing-shan still had over 200 million soul points left, so she didn't mind it too much and infused it into the black bow. A wondrous fluctuation began to radiate from his body. The bowstring was slowly pulled back to form a full moon. A moment of pause. All of a sudden, the bowstring split into multiple images, followed by a thunderous explosion. The arrow disappeared without a trace. At another location, the magic scale dragon circled in the sky, looking down at the battlefield below. If that guy managed to escape, then next, all of a sudden, it felt a sense of danger. Boom! A deep black hole abruptly appeared in the void of space. Countless tiny cracks began to spread in every direction. The magic scale dragon's head was blasted open, blood splattered all over the place. It roared and immediately tried to find the enemy. At the very next moment, another black hole appeared in the void of space. The second arrow. So fast, there's no time to dodge. The magic scale dragon was sent tumbling in the air. Half of its skull was exposed. It was quick to react and immediately tried to think of a way to escape. Right at this moment, an unbearable pain came from its body, causing the magic scale dragon to tremble. Damn it, what kind of technique is this? When did I get hit by such an unbearably painful technique? The magic scale dragon couldn't understand, nor did it have the time to think about it. The void of space split open again. The arrow flashed and struck the dragon's head. Boom! Blood exploded everywhere. On the ground, a rain of blood began to pour down. The magic scale dragon was hit by 3 snowdrift arrows in a row, almost losing consciousness. A white fog appeared in the sky. Gu Qing-shan and Crow appeared. Crow looked at the dying magic scale dragon and clicked his tongue. So this is Snowdrift? Other than the wound on its head, the magic scale dragon seemed to be affected by something else. Its entire body was twitching uncontrollably as if in extreme pain. Yes, this is Snowdrift, but it's not just Snowdrift. Gu Qing-shan put the black bow away, her body once again transforming into a dragon within the layers of black shadows. Roar! The black dragon's gigantic body once again obscured the clouds. It leapt forward, bit down on the magic scale dragon's head, and began to tear it apart. All of a sudden, the black dragon looked up, It was holding the magic scale dragon's head in its mouth. The headless dragon's corpse fell from the sky, crashing into the ground. This scene successfully shocked the battlefield below. The Frost Empire's soldiers began to flee. Chapter 1420. The headless dragon corpse fell to the ground. As the black dragon coldly watched this, the gloomy presence around his body abruptly moved. Clusters of black fog exuded from his body, as if they were alive, enveloping both the dragon corpse and the dragon head. While this dragon was performing Red Shadow Dragon Hex, Chaos, Gu Qingshan was also performing a spell. Magic Dragon's Bloodline. Magic Dragon's Bloodline was an ability that even the bygone-era humans feared, capable of silently corroding any living being and turning them into their own power. This dragon had already been hit twice by Snowdrift, but due to being affected by the Magic Dragon's bloodline while fleeing, its body was in intense pain, which was why it missed its final chance to escape. The black fog that was as thick as ink seemed to be alive, quickly devouring both the dragon corpse and the dragon head. "Come!" the black dragon shouted. Even if he had to risk exposing his identity, he had to absorb this bloodline's power. This was the power of a dragon, it would help him quickly grow stronger. The thick black fog swept upwards, returned to the sky, and entered the black dragon's body. Ugh! The black dragon uttered a painful groan. Although he had already absorbed the power of 3 dragons, the power of a dragon was still too much for the black dragon to bear, causing him extreme pain. The powerful and abundant magic scale dragon's power assaulted his thoughts, soul, and body, causing excruciating pain as if he was being cut by 1,000 knives. Lines of glowing text quickly appeared on the war god UI frowny face. "You've killed a magic dragon's bloodline's bloodline. This magic dragon's bloodline's power will be completely devoured by you as the magic dragon. You've killed a mythical creature. Magic scale dragon. Although you have the power of 3 dragons, your usage of dragon power is too shallow. It had a very high chance of defeating and killing you. This battle has been judged as a battle between equals. You will receive the corresponding amount of soul points." Calculating soul points, Gu Qingshan suddenly noticed something. "Crow, find a place to hide and wait for me," he whispered. "All right, I didn't think you could turn into a dragon. What a cool devil," Crow excitedly said, then disappeared in the blink of an eye. A white mist surged around the black dragon's body, enveloping it and disappearing from the battlefield. The sea. White mist filled the air above the azure sea. Soon, a black dragon appeared in the fog. The black dragon uttered a painful roar, rolled on the ground, and turned back into an orange cat. Orange sovereign transformation. Unlike when she absorbed the magic dragon, the mountain of orange thaumaturgy had also mutated after Gu Qingshan became a Sumer Lord. After transforming into the orange sovereign, apart from ghostly shadow of night, Gu Qingshan also obtained another ability: power absorption. You will no longer absorb soul origin energy from the void, but through eating and devouring, the soul origin energy you obtain will be doubled. The orange cat waved his paw, manifested a block of ice on the surface of the ocean, then crawled onto it. Sensing his body's reaction, the orange cat slowly calmed down. Sure enough, after transforming into the orange sovereign, he was adept at devouring energy in the first place. As a result, the feeling of being sliced apart by 1,000 blades disappeared without a trace. That's right. The orange cat laid on top of the block of ice, basking in the sun and comfortably squinting his eyes. All of a sudden, a line of glowing text appeared in the void of space. Frowny face. After transforming into the orange sovereign, the amount of soul points you can absorb will be doubled. Furthermore, you are currently using Magic Dragon's bloodline to devour the power of the mythical creature. Magic Scale Dragon, the Orange Sovereign, has a powerful devouring ability. Your absorption of the Magic Scale Dragon's power is accelerating. Gu Qingshan's heart calmed down. My body no longer hurts, my soul points have been doubled, and the absorption of power is also accelerating. Transforming into the Orange Sovereign is a very useful ability. Lines of glowing text continued to appear in the void of space. Frowny face special reminder. Aside from transforming into a soul, the magic scale dragon still has a few unique abilities. You have two choices. Firstly, you can choose one of these unique abilities to turn into your own thaumaturgy. Secondly, you can use the power of the magic dragon to devour all of them to replace your magic dragon bloodline ability. Attention! The magic dragon is a supreme soul artifact created by the bygone era humanity. If you choose to devour it, you will lose the power of the magic dragon bloodline and replace it with an unknown new ability. Please make your choice. Gu Qingshan chose the first option without hesitation. The ability of the magic dragon bloodline is undetectable, unstoppable, can suddenly activate, and can even devour the enemy's power after killing them. This kind of ability is truly terrifying. Gu Qingshan wouldn't give up on this ability. You've chosen to obtain a thaumaturgy. Attention, the following thaumaturgies have appeared during this absorption. You may choose from them. Qi. The notification abruptly stopped as the glowing text didn't appear. The orange cat's swinging tail stopped, feeling worried. What's going on? Did it crash? All of a sudden, all the glowing text disappeared. The war god Yui's voice resounded. Frowny face, you've obtained the 1,000 dragon ancestors' inheritance. You are its chosen heir due to your existence. The magic scale dragon's abilities are awakening. You may choose one from the following awakened inheritances of the dragon ancestor as your new ability. First, magic scale armor. A description. When you transform into a dragon again, a layer of magic dragon scales will grow over your body, granting you immunity to all elemental attacks, as well as immunity to curses, poisons, and diseases. This old man's body is made of violent iron. Come fight me. Second, dragon hammer. A description. When you transform into a dragon, your attack power will instantly increase by 5 times, 10 times, 15 times, 20 times. You can attack 4 times in a row, but you will be weakened for 1 breath's worth of time after that. I'll beat you to death. Third, red dragon origin hex. Chaos. A description. When the other party calls out your name, any form of reference is acceptable. If you agree, the other party's next attack will hit themselves. Guess who I am. Fourth, Dragon King Shield. Description. When you transform into a non-dragon form, a shield of laws will be hidden around your body, ensuring that you won't be killed in an assassination attempt. Invincible. How lonely. Gu Qingshan quickly finished reading through them. These are all very powerful abilities, especially when the apocalypse is right around the corner. They're basically like charcoal in a snowstorm. Dragon Hammer isn't the first thing to consider, as a weakened state of 1 breath's worth of time isn't something that Gu Qingshan can accept. Magic Scale Armor is limited to a dragon's body, while the Dragon King Shield is limited to a human's body. Both of them have their own limitations. The truly insidious one is still Red Dragon Origin Hex, Chaos. Reading through this ability's description, Gu Qingshan was filled with indescribable emotions. Regardless of whether it's Azure Dragon Origin Hex, Binding, or Red Dragon Origin Hex, Chaos, these Dragon Curse-type abilities are all very indescribable. No wonder the 1,000 Dragon Ancestor felt that I'm too weak when he first saw me. When someone calls out my name, they want to beat me to death on the spot. On the other hand, when someone calls out my name, I can't let it be for nothing. The fact that I carry the power of the magic dragon's bloodline probably won't escape the 1,000 dragon ancestors' eyes. Gu Qingshan slowly realized. It seems the 1,000 dragon ancestor wants me to inherit his legacy. I choose Red Dragon Origin Hex, Chaos, Gu Qingshan replied. Are you sure? The war god Yui asked. Very sure, the war god Yui replied. Currently absorbing the above unique ability, converting it into your thaumaturgy. Please wait for 5 minutes. In addition, you've already absorbed the magic scale dragon's soul origin power, and with the enhancement of the orange sovereign state, it's doubled. You've obtained 2 million soul points. The orange cat squinted his eyes, completely unmoved. I only need to wait for the thaumaturgy, so I need to bring Crow back as soon as possible. After all, I've been out for quite some time already. The orange cat turned back into Gu Qingshan and quickly entered the white fog. He went to White City to pick up Crow. The two of them returned to the Roland Empire together. The royal palace. Inside the changing room, the two of them appeared from the fog. Everything was normal. Knock, knock, knock. The sound of knocking came. Sir Duke, have you finished changing? The maid's voice asked. Crow hurriedly replied, I'm done, I'm done. The female voice outside abruptly raised. Not good, you haven't come out for so long. Could it be that Sir Duke's body is unwell? Quickly open the door. Hearing that, both Gu Qingshan and Crow quickly took off their armor. Gu Qingshan was wearing a set of armor that Crow provided, which she returned to him. Crow immediately hid the armor without a trace. A second later, bam! The door was pushed open. The female came in with 6 maids and looked at the two of them. Sir Duke, you seem to have gone through a strenuous exercise, she said with a smile that didn't seem like a smile. Gu Qingshan looked down. After taking off the armor, the formal attire he was wearing had already been torn to shreds, barely covering a few important parts. Not only did he fight earlier, but he also transformed into a dragon, so how could he possibly wear this formal attire? Gu Qingshan used her hand to cover her vitals and calmly said, This formal attire is quite decent, but the quality is a bit lacking. Please give me another one. Chapter 14:21. The ordinary-looking woman looked at Gu Qingshan, then moved her gaze away from where his hands were covering her face and met his eyes. She casually said, I am Maria, the princess of the Roland Empire. There's something I want to discuss with you, but you should first wash away the stench of blood on your body and change into a suitable set of clothes before we talk. I think so as well, Gu Qingshan replied. Maria clasped her hands behind her back and left. The 6 maids quickly returned with a new set of clothes, then also left. The door closed. Princess? What for? The duck plushie asked in confusion. Who knows? Gu Qingshan replied. Crow drew his rapier, then poked himself, then poked Gu Qingshan's body. Flames flickered from their bodies. The dust and stench of blood on their bodies completely faded away. All the filth has been burned away? What an intricate flame manipulation technique, Gu Qingshan asked with interest. The blood on his scalp had been completely burned away, but not a single strand of his hair had curled up or caught on fire due to the high temperature. Crow sounded a bit prideful. I just think that you don't need to use water for bathing. He glanced at the duck plushie, then said, You still need to wash. Wash yourself in the sun. The two of them separated and changed into their clothes. That's enough, Gu Qingshan raised her voice. Bam! The door was pushed open. The 6 maids came in. A few of them took Crow away to rest, while the others led Gu Qingshan up a flight of stairs to a garden in the sky. Princess Maria was sitting on a bench in the middle of the flowers, holding a book in her hand. Your Highness, he's here, one of the maids said. The princess waved her hand and gestured for Gu Qingshan to sit on the other side of the table. I don't like to waste time, Count Rode. I have something I need to discuss with you, she said. Everyone else had been pushed away, leaving only her and Gu Qingshan in the sky garden. Seeing her serious expression, Gu Qingshan also changed her attitude and said, Please go ahead, Your Highness. Do you think the evil spirits are powerful? Maria asked. If they can no longer leave this world, and have been possessed, they can no longer use the life talismans and sigil techniques that they were proficient in before. Their defeat is only a matter of time, Gu Qingshan said. But the war is now in a stalemate, isn't it? Maria said. Yes. This is a bit strange, Could it be that we're trying to preserve our strength? Gu Qingshan pondered. Maria looked at him and said, "A few days ago, there were sudden changes in living beings all over the world. Road, you were among the first to discover it." "That's right, in my town, 2 wraiths turned into monsters," Gu Qingshan said. He suddenly reacted and his expression changed. "Could it be, yes, the plague has already descended. Those top-notch experts are currently fighting against it," Maria said. Gu Qingshan released her spiritual sense and quickly scanned through the entire Holy Crown City. It was peaceful and peaceful. "Do you find it strange that you haven't seen any mutated beings?" Maria asked. "That's right, what exactly is going on?" Gu Qingshan didn't understand. Maria looked at him with a judging gaze and slowly explained, "You're only 15 years old, the adults have decided to protect you, so they didn't send you into the chasm to fight." "Chasm?" "That's right, the combatants have joined hands to create a chasm space. Any mutated infected beings or cities that were destroyed by the plague would immediately be transported to that chasm space due to the repulsion of the laws of this world," Maria continued. "The true war is actually happening in that chasm space," Gu Qingshan realized and said in realization. "So that's how it is, because the combatants are fighting on 2 fronts, they split their attention, allowing the wraiths to temporarily maintain a stalemate." His heart sank. "Originally I was confused. Even though the signs of the plague had already appeared, how did it return to normal in the past few days? So the situation had already deteriorated to this point." "Count Road, I have a suggestion," Maria said. "What is it?" "Let's be frank, I've actually seen that your true form is a dragon." Gu Qingshan was surprised and looked at her. She stared straight at Gu Qingshan. "Yes," Gu Qingshan admitted. A victorious smile appeared on Maria's face as she continued, "Earl Road, both you and I are not of age, so we are excluded from the real battle by the adults. However, if we bring out our true strength, we will definitely be qualified to participate in this battle." Gu Qingshan understood a bit. If this princess was willing to take him to participate in the war, Gu Qingshan was more than willing to agree. He gestured for her to continue. "Sure enough," Maria said. "Count Road, how about the 2 of us cooperate?" "Your Highness, how would you like to cooperate?" Gu Qingshan asked. Maria replied, "To enter the chasm space to fight, you must be at least 18 years old and possess sufficient strength. Both you and I have no issues with our strength, only our age difference is a bit, so I have a compromise." "What is it?" Gu Qingshan asked. "The summoner and his summoned being can be counted together, be it in terms of strength or age," Maria said. "That way, both our ages would be sufficient," Gu Qingshan replied. "Do you agree?" Maria asked. "I'm more or less in agreement, but I don't know how to do it." "That's simple, you'll form a covenant with me and become my summoned mount." Gu Qingshan was stunned. "You ride me?" he asked. "That's right, although you're only a young dragon, you've already killed a magic scale dragon. You're worthy of me," Maria replied. Gu Qingshan went silent for a bit, then reluctantly asked, "Can't it be a summoning spell? Me as your summoning companion?" Maria scowled. "You mean being my pet?" "I mean summoning companions," Gu Qingshan replied. "That's called a war pet, and a pet at that," Maria confirmed. "I don't look like a pet when I fight." Gu Qingshan was even more certain. The 2 of them stared at each other. Maria finally agreed. "That's true, we should understand each other's strength better, this will help us better unite and fight against the plague monsters in the chasm." "I agree," Gu Qingshan replied. "Then, how about we exchange a few simple blows?" "Sure, Count, you go first." "You're a lady, you go first," Gu Qingshan replied. "If we really fight, should I use my bow or my fist? Or my swords?" Gu Qingshan silently thought. Since her identity as a dragon has been exposed, as a dragon, it's acceptable for her to have other combat skills besides the bow and arrow. This woman seems very strong, so I'll go with swordsmanship. Gu Qingshan put her hand on the table and didn't move. Maria smiled and said, Count Road, if I go first, you won't have a chance, please, Gu Qingshan replied. Maria reached her hand out and lightly swung. Bam! Maria slapped herself in the face. Both of them froze. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.